realize that you gotta stop and get one before you come here.
I buy them in bulk
I've
I
never,
do when Kent has them on.
for $1.
$1 a piece.
Yep.
I just bought a case of them.
I have never drank a
Are they?
Rockstar in my life.
Okay.
I've never drank a Rockstar or a Red Bull or nothing in my life.
I don't like Red Bull. I'm addicted to Rockstar.
Yeah, I've never drank. Isn't that just like a Coke or 10 times the Coke?
Not good, Randy.
Yeah,
Well, I know.
yeah.
I totally know. I need a mute button.
Just shut those off. We'll have none of that from the comedy section down there. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, no, can I send you the guy from Roman?
What is the link to our, where this is broadcast?
Yeah, I'm doing the button.
Okay, Andy, you're here. Let's go ahead and we'll get started. Brittany is the recorder?
It is.
Perfect, okay. We'd like to welcome everybody out. This is the Roy City Council meeting for February 15th. Time is 5:30 p.m. We're located, obviously, in the Roy City Council Chamber. Want to recognize and welcome, we got Council Member Joe Paul with us tonight, Council Member Jackson, Council Member Wilson, Council Member Sophie Paul, and Council Member Skadden with us. We've asked Council Member Skadden if he'll lead us in a moment of silence as well as a Pledge of Allegiance. So, Randy?
Thank you. If I can have you all just join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, if you could follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, Council, we have a consent item that involves three pieces of equipment. Any comments, questions? And we're going to introduce you here in a second. So watch it. Any comments, questions, thoughts about these consent items before I go for a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the consent items as listed in the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion then to approve.
I'll second it.
And second, this is a roll call. No, this is not a roll call vote. This is all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then those consent items are approved. Okay? And Matt is indicating we think we might be able to make some money on these two Ford 150s.
If you don't, you better get a better salesman.
Okay. Thank you, Council. Public comments. If you have anything you'd like to share, please step up to the mic, give us your name and address. Perfect. Just name and address. Thank you.
Laura Lewis, 3102 West, 6000 South. I'm really sad that I have to be here today, seriously sad. I have been telling you for a long time, this is not my first time here, that intersection, I said, every time I came, I said, it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when someone gets killed at that intersection, and sadly, it happened. And I know you put up a sign that says cross traffic doesn't stop, but they know that. The guy who hit the woman and killed her, he just blew through. He didn't even stop. And he was going extremely fast. He was going so fast, they had to use the jaws of life to get her out of that car. Okay, she was alive at that point. I did a quick assessment on her, and I thought she had internal injuries. Her grandson, luckily, was in the back on the other side that got hit, but there was a lot of blood because he bit his tongue so badly. I think he probably had to have stitches. And he had several fractures. He kept saying, I think my legs are broken, but he could push up and down. But he did have fractures, several, more than one. 1 week previous to this poor woman, there was 1 week where we had 3 accidents in 1 week, and one of them came through our fence again, once a year. It doesn't change. We've lived in that house for 7 years, and every year somebody comes through the fence. I don't care about the fence. Insurance pays for it. My husband's fixing it right now. I don't care about the fence. What I care about is that kids wait on that corner for the school bus. So I already told you it's only a matter of time before someone gets killed, and now they have. It's only a matter of time before someone comes through that corner. Well, the lady that almost hit our house, that came through our fence, if those kids had been on that corner, she would have hit them, because that's where she came in, was on that corner. And she was driving very fast. See, that's part of the problem, is they know the police department is overwhelmed, understaffed, and the odds of there being I don't think I've ever seen a police officer on that street other than to respond to an accident or something else, but they don't, come out there just to watch how fast people are going, and they know that. So they'll do 50 on that road. They don't care. And so I know that you said that you were going to put a roundabout in. I know COVID threw a hitch in that. And I also can't let my grandson and my dogs play in our front yard, which is very sad. They have to play in the backyard now. And I guess there's some funding coming from Wasatch.
That's correct. Wasatch
Okay.
Regional Council is working through federal funding, and the cost of that is right around $729,000. Roy City has to fund about 40 to 50,000 of that, and we're prepared to do that. And the federal money's coming, to be able to pay for most of the rest of it. There'll be some state money, I think, in there as well. But yes, please continue.
Well, I just came to say that whatever you can do to push this, because it needed to happen yesterday, So anything that you can do to get that money quickly and get that started, and I know COVID threw a big, a wrench into everything, but I don't want to see anybody else die out there. I especially don't want to see kids waiting for the bus that would be a mass casualty. There's a lot of kids that wait for that bus there. So I'm just pleading with you to try to get that funding as quickly as possible and get that started.
And great comments, and we appreciate that. Ross, I think Brandon attended the meeting. Do you have maybe any more updates or anything more that we know about that's moving along?
We have money for land acquisition, and they gave us that right away. So we'll start the process of design and right away. So we hope to have it started by a year from now.
Okay. We'll push as fast as we can and hard as we can. There have been talk, and we appreciate your testimony because this is very important. Council, so you understand, last year we had 11 accidents at that intersection.
Is it 3,100?
31 and 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, make sure we understand where that is, 31 and 6,000. 11. And right after the first of the year, we had this terrible, terrible accident that she's talking about, and a life was lost. She actually, I think, was in the hospital for a couple of more days and then ultimately passed. If you go by there, you can surely see where the damage to the fence is still there, where they plowed through the fence. And this is not the first time. This happens way too often. The city went in, did an assessment, determined that there was a tree, at least on the south side over on 3100, and it was in the blind view, I think, Steve, you found, and we had the tree removed. Ross went in there and put some signs to try to remind people to cross traffic because it's not a four-way. Police department's assessment has come back a couple of times. People like to bolt through that intersection, making it really difficult. But if they're traveling greater than the 35 miles an hour, they may think they're going 35, but they're going faster, and it appears there's some evidence suggesting that there's not a lot of reaction time, okay, if somebody decides to bolt across there. Bottom line is that we've had way too many accidents and now a fatality at this point, and this has got to stop. It's absolutely got to stop.
And the lady that came through our fence, she was traveling at a good speed because we took our tree down to help with that, and my husband had been trying to get the stump out, and so there was a big chunk of that stump that she hit, and she drug that thing like 6 feet.
Oh.
And it was wedged under her car, and if she had not hit that stump, she would have hit our house.
Yeah.
It just slowed her down enough that she didn't.
Yeah.
And it took them like a half hour to convince her to go to the hospital. But and then the way that she hit it, it pushed it's 2 rails. It's a vinyl fence with 2 rails. It pushed that bottom rail almost pretty much to our walkway. And so it broke all of the posts along there. And when my husband went to fix it, he realized that they had put those posts in cement. So he's had a heck of a time getting them out of there. But that, like I said, a fence can be fixed. It's once every year, regular as clockwork, somebody comes through there. That lady that died, she wound up in our neighbor's yard, and he has a big tree that someone at one of the accidents, they hit that tree. If she had hit that tree, I think she probably would have died on scene.
On the side, yeah.
Yeah. So I just don't want to see anybody else getting injured and it doesn't just affect the people that are in those vehicles. Because there was one lady, I've had EMT training, so I was, like I said, did a quick assessment, whatever. And then I looked at her and I said, she was just shaking. And I said, were you in one of the cars? And she said, no, I just saw it. And she started crying. She was so, traumatized by seeing this. I can't imagine what she felt like when she found out the woman died. So it affects more people than I think we realize.
Yeah.
No,
you're absolutely correct. I will tell you, Council, Matt made a recommendation, and surely we look at this. He said that once we get everything basically done, if we're still waiting for funding, maybe what we can consider doing is looking at using city funds if it can get reimbursed, and we might be able to move out and go ahead and get the development, get that roundabout put in, to at least provide some element of protection and control, because it is, as we stated before, there is no stopping when you come off 1900 on 6000 all the way down to 3500. There's no stop signs, there's no street lights. The only thing that'll stop traffic is really the train.
the train, yeah.
And that's
Or
it.
if somebody's crossing.
And unfortunately, if somebody, in this case, somebody crosses and they get T-boned, and
No,
that's
I
just
meant if
terrible.
somebody,
Crossing
the trail.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
trail.
if
So if
there's
somebody
somebody on the
pushes
light,
that and
that's
it's
right.
blinking,
Yeah.
thank you for putting that in there, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And if you look at the traffic on 3100 about 5:30,
Yeah.
it's backed up. I mean, going north, the people coming south, okay? If you look at that traffic, it's backed up almost to Clearfield's
right.
city offices.
No, you're right.
I mean, it's way backed up, and people get impatient,
Right.
and then they just try to, like you said, they try to dart out there because they're tired of waiting.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of this, council, is in large part because what's happened is 3,500 is congested at that particular time, and it's really a better way oftentimes to get through Roy if you just go east on 3,100, and they're stacking up in there. We've got a lot of complaints from people that live there that says they can't even back out of their driveways at certain times during the day. So we do have a challenge here, and I will tell you, we've got a solution. We're just hoping we can find a better solution soon. And it may very well be we just come to the council and say, council, would you consider option B, which would be is maybe we could try to look at funding it with the hopes of reimbursement from federal funds. So we'll work all options here, but I agree. But that's not the only one. We have a similar problem with 3,156. That one's also terrible, and I've got enough complaints about that one. And that solution is with the 56 widening project. They'll put a light at that location. But we'll try to hit these as much as we can, as hard as we can, where we can. But honestly, 5600 is a state issue. This particular intersection is Roy's issue. It's our street.
Is there a possibility of a temporizing solution until we get the roundabout, like a stop sign or something like that there, or how does that work?
That's a good question, and Andy may have to give us a little bit of insight on this, and Ross, you might, but the recommendation, the talk was, could we put a four-way stop signs there? The challenge with that is there's some legal issues, liability issues. That has to be engineered, the best I understand, before we can make those kinds of adjustments. And the police chief, we had a good conversation about that, of what we thought we could do and not do. And there's some liability issues if it's not done a certain way, because the idea about four-way stop at that location, I still think is a viable option. But there's some real legal issues associated with liability that we really have to watch as well. So here's what I'll say. It is on our radar. I'm dead serious about we got to do something. I'm convinced the council will do everything we can, staff will do everything they can to find a solution. I'm excited that Ross, the meetings have started. We finally got the Wasatch Front. The whole thing's in motion. I'm just hoping we can get something done real soon. But
Now, he said land acquisition, so does that mean, I mean, I don't care, but does that mean you're going to have to take some of our property to?
it might. I haven't seen the drawings or what that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to take part of that open field that's just across to the south of you. We just don't know until we see it. But the important part is, as I see it, we've got to find a solution. And if we have to buy some people's property to help put the right solution in, then we'll do everything we can to convince them, please, let us pay you, but we need to do this to make sure we provide a safe intersection there.
Well, like
So,
I said, I don't care if you take part of my land. I just don't want my neighbors getting mad at me.
won't be mad at you.
Oh, do you live in the northwest corner? You live on the northwest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and we took that tree down to try it. We thought it would help, but
It did help. I'm telling you, it used to be just, you couldn't see around it. But what you did and fixed that side was great. What we did kitty corner from you really was great too, because we cleared that intersection. We just need to do more. So let's see what we can do here.
well, and my concern too is that in the future, if we don't get this done soon, eventually they're going to put housing in that field, right, where the field is right now,
It is zoned for housing, yes.
and that's going to exacerbate it big time.
Exactly.
So I just, I don't want to wait too long, partially because I don't want anybody else getting hurt, but I also don't, and with that construction on 5600, it pushes more traffic onto 6000.
I know, everything you're saying is true. Everything you're saying is
Yeah.
true, so.
And that's things, I will say this, that it's actually very, very personal for me, because I actually used to pick the bus up at that exact spot way back 25 plus years ago, because I grew up in that exact neighborhood. So I know exactly where you're talking. And in fact, I believe your daughter-in-law, I lived across the street from her grandparents, the Thomases,
Oh,
right?
the Thomases, yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, so
Yes.
it's just, I just, like I said, I don't care about the fence. I'm just concerned about people getting hurt
Yeah.
or killed, And unfortunately, and if her grandson had been on the other side, it would have been way worse. Would have been way worse. So I just don't want to, especially, I mean, it's tragic when anybody dies, but it's, you know, it just really hits us hard when it's a little kid. So,
Yeah,
all
we
right.
agree.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your testimony and comments on that. Thank you. Anybody else like to share a thought? Please, name and address.
Excuse me. My name is Dustin Carter. I live at 5924 South, 2100 West. I submitted a letter about 2 weeks ago and then followed up, and it was suggested that I come in case you had any questions or concerns about what I'd said. So I'm here to appear, whatever you guys want to ask me about, or it's in regard to the modifications that I made to my house and my property to keep my family safe and to provide a living space for my dad, who's here with me. I didn't know if, I mean, I've already said most of what I had in the letter. I don't want to waste your time, but it's important to me that I come and present myself for any questions that any of you may have.
Okay, just refresh us a little bit to make sure that,
Sure.
for the record, we know what you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, I live on, again, 5924 South, just off of 6,000. And my house faces west and is on a slope. And so when I decided to stay, when my wife and I decided we wanted to stay for the long haul in Roy, I decided, well, I've got to do something about this slope because I'm falling when I'm trying to shovel the walk, and we're falling when we're trying to access the stairs on that north entrance. And so I excavated everywhere around that front entrance and around the north entrance and created driving space and lowered it all down. So this year I haven't fallen, so that's good. But it's flat now. So in addition to that, we created an addition for my dad to come and live with us, who he had been living in an apartment up in Ogden, and we extended out west towards the street. And apparently we're a little too far west, 16 inches, if I'm understanding what Mr. Parkinson had said in his letter and from our further discussion. So I'm not saying I'm not. I guess we're too far. But anyway, that's another issue at hand. The reason that I wrote the letter that I wrote is I actually have a good friend who grew up here in Roy with me, but he lives out in Elk Ridges and he's on their city council. So he said, well, this is the first thing you should, he's also an attorney. He said, this is what you should do first. So I'm just trying to follow his advice. And so that's, again, I don't want to waste your time repeating everything, but I'll be happy to talk about however much detail you want or however little detail you want. I'll be happy to go into it.
So you didn't get a permit before you added on? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Okay.
we did
And
not.
now somebody's complaining that you're too close and they want you to tear it down, or?
I don't know of any complaints. You'd have to ask Mr. Stevenson or someone else. I don't know of any complaints. But we are out of code, at least on several items with regards to taking it down. He can speak for himself.
The building official stopped and put a stop work order on it because half the building is under construction. When he found out there was no permit, that's why the stop work order came. It doesn't matter if it was too close or not. They added onto the building, added a roof, added a room with no permit. So that's where kind of it stands. And then as we investigated it more and more things came out of the issues, setback being one of them, parking requirements being another, but no permit is the biggest issue.
So, permit at this time is possible or not, or what are you proposing as the step forward, the next step forward?
Well, he has submitted plans for a permit, but he can't get past planning because the building is within setbacks. It goes beyond the 25-foot front yard setback. The other issue is he's converted a single-car carport into living space and hasn't provided the legal parking outside of the setbacks. So there's several issues that we have to go through.
And the setback was offset by 16 inches, if I recall correctly. I'm going
But
back
yeah,
on the
his,
email. Yeah,
his building is 23 feet, 8 inches.
8 inches. Yeah, so it's from the setback.
So for next step, I mean, like, what are the next steps then? Sounds like we're a little bit of an impasse, but is there any way to take a next step?
Because we don't have a board of adjustments anymore.
Well, I mean, we have a hearing officer, but the request is gonna be, what's the hardship of the land you couldn't abide by the ordinance? And the hardship isn't topography, it isn't shape of lot, it's, I built it too close. So the hearing officer
But
would,
he's already got foundations poured, walls starting to be erected.
oh, they're already erected, there's a roof on it,
And so basically, until he told us that he did this, nobody would have known, or somebody
well,
drove by?
again, a building inspector happened to pass by and saw it, called Tammy Nelson, the building permit tech, and found out there was no permit, so we put a stop work order.
So is there like a fine or something like this? Or, I mean, I'm still, I guess, at the same
Well,
question. How do we move forward with that much being done?
Well, moving forward isn't as simple as do this. I mean, technically, he needs to remove all portions of the building that are within the setback.
Or do a variance request, or isn't that?
That's the hearing officer.
Gotcha.
But that's what he was explaining, unless there's.
What's the
a
hardship
viable
of the
What's
land?
the hardship?
The hardship.
Of the land, not. 'cause
Not
he
of the
could-
individual.
Not
of the-
financially.
Yeah, hardship is not a financial.
Correct.
So what's there now is it easily torn down, or is that it's not?
I mean, I don't know, because I'm not the builder.
Did you hire someone, or are you doing this yourself?
So, yeah. So the gentleman with whom I contracted, my understanding is he's a licensed contractor. He's by the name of Dane Jacobson. He actually lives in Roy. So I talked to him in June. So what do we got to do? We got to do this. And I actually brought the idea to him, says, don't we need to get like permission for this? And he's like, well, anyway, he talked me out of it. I don't understand why he did. Because if he would have said, yeah, we need a permit, I'd have been in here like crazy. But anyway, it's still my property. It was my decision. He got me on the fact that it would take so much longer, apparently, to get a permit, which he was already taking really long. And my dad, I needed to move him. And I was just like, I have to get this done. So whatever, just do it. But yeah, no, I mean, he said that I should be the general contractor. I don't understand this stuff, so I'm just, anyway, I would be the general contractor, whatever, and then he would do the work under me, and I guess that's fine. But I mean, I paid him $85,000. It's not like he's my neighbor helping me out with with a little project. I mean, that's the truth. Again, I knew that we should have got a permit. I went to him and said, don't we need a permit? He talked me out of it because he told me this is the problem, and this is the problem, and this is the problem. And so I didn't want to fight. I needed to get my dad out of those apartments. I needed to get this done. That's what I felt. And so that was my decision. I accept that. I'm not gonna make an excuse. That's how it went.
Do you have a contract with him?
Yes, he didn't technically sign it, but we do have emails. The amount that I paid him coincides exactly with the contract. There's no issues that way. I mean, he hasn't been bad as far as doing the work. In fact, he's been really good in certain little details to work with me. And I don't want to say he's a terrible guy. I think he just has a really bad experience with inspectors and city people, and just, I don't know. I don't understand. Whatever. I didn't want to argue with him. I needed to get it done, and that was my decision. Again, I didn't come here to trash Dane. It's my property. I made the decision. But anyway, that's where we are. So now, as far as the lowering, just so that you understand, and I get the hardship of the land thing, but I sure hope that the safety of my family is more important than the hardship of the land. Now, the 16 inches was a mistake, and I explained that in my letter. But lowering that driveway was because I have fallen several times. My wife has fallen several times. My children have fallen. Luckily, I haven't been sued because a neighbor or somebody else came up and hasn't, so far that I know of, hasn't fallen. I felt like if I'm going to live in this home, I need to make it safe. And so I did. I lowered that and excavated. I should have brought a picture, but I thought I was doing it really nice and making it really good for everybody. But obviously, since I lowered the driveway, we couldn't reach the carport. So it's like, we'll enclose the carport because nobody can park there anymore. And then I put the parking just right next to it, because that was the space that I had. At that time, I didn't know that there was a 20 by 8, whatever the rule is for the parking. I mean, there's room for us to park, but I guess there's some invisible lines that I don't totally understand or know about that I'm not fully in compliance with. And so that's part of it. But again, and then the 16 inches, that's actually the extension forward, which, again, I explained in my letter. When I called several months ago, there was a downloaded paper that said 25 feet, and I called to make sure we had the right property. It didn't talk about that. I guess my property doesn't start until a foot back from the sidewalk. I didn't know, and I, so I assumed it was 25 feet from the sidewalk. And then the gentleman that installed my foundation wall, why it's 4 inches, I don't know. I'm thinking he must have thought, because it's an 8-inch wall, that he'd put it in the center. I don't know. But we're another 4 inches, so that's 12 and 4. That's our 16 inches, which is why we're 16 inches too close to the sidewalk. The house to the north of me, which is why this really hurts. Now, it does face north, so there might be different rules, but its wall is actually closer to the road than me, and it's 70 feet from where we're at. So it would really, really rip my heart out to have to drop 25 or 30 grand and rip off that wall, cut my dad's shower in half, re-support my roof, and look over and say, that house is closer to the street than mine, and I'm doing this now. I know there's rules. And like I said, it's facing north, so maybe it's a different amount of footage. But that really, really is really sad.
I mean, this sounds like a legal issue with your contractor, but have you addressed your contractor about doing work without a permit?
I have.
Because that's really where it starts.
I have talked to him somewhat. I know that in the end, if I'm not able to come to an understanding with you guys, then I may have to have some type of legal something. And my same friend who's an attorney, that was next option. So I'm here hoping for a little understanding, a little forgiveness.
Yeah.
Not making excuses.
And I think, in the council, that's where it gets a little more complex. Let me just make a couple of comments. Personally, I think what we probably need to do at this point is we just need to basically have a little bit more of awareness to the issue, okay, and do that. I don't think council, we put you in a very good spot to be able to make a decision on this, because to make a decision on this, we have to talk about what you can do, which is ordinance change. You're not in a position of assessing this in terms of for a better word, some type of a board that does these kinds of things. So here's what I would recommend, and I think this is the approach we ought to probably take. Matt, let's just get name and number, okay? Let's call a meeting where we can get just a few of us together. Let's flush out all the issues from a city perspective, okay? And then see what the options are. I personally, and Andy, unless you tell me something different, short of the council changing the ordinance, okay, you're not a review board. And so you really don't have any authority to simply deviate that. You have the authority to change the ordinance. But I don't think you can go up there with the authority to simply says, for this young man's dilemma, we're going to fix his problem. I think it has to be done in a different capacity. But by the same token I think we need to understand what options are available. And if there's ways by which we can work this as a city administration, we ought to see if we can do that. Otherwise, we'll be here all night and you'll be grappling, trying to figure out, well, how can we help this? Because obviously, there's a lot of issues here that need to be fleshed out. I'm just not sure the council's in a position they can fix this at this moment as it's been presented. Andy, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, Mayor, you're absolutely right. This isn't the proper place. Someone can't come here and say, hey, give me a variance or whatever. You're not the proper place for
Right.
that. If we wanted to somehow change the ordinance to make this allowable for everybody else, that's fine. But right now, there's a stop work order in place. He has to follow that order.
Right.
He can come into compliance or he can try something else, but that's where we stand right now.
Are you okay with that, council? And to your point, I just think we just need to see what we can flush out. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So here's what I would ask. If you can get your name and number to Matt, we need to set up a time when we can meet with you, We'll bring all the facts, we'll put all the information out there, and we'll try to provide what appears to be a way ahead by what needs to be done. But I just, counsel, I just want to make sure I know you want to help, and you probably say, well, let's vote on it, but I'm not so sure you're an authority to be able to do that legally, unless you want to change the ordinance, okay? And you have all the authority to change the ordinance. So, and it might come down to simply says that may be the only way you can fix this, and there may be other issues, okay? But at least let's see if we can find a solution that moves ahead on this one. That work for you?
Well, absolutely. Any consideration to this matter is greatly
Okay.
appreciated. I'll follow up. We'll wait to the meeting.
Yeah,
and then
just
I'll
get with
speak
Matt,
Mr.
and then
Andrews
make
when
sure we
it's
got
over.
contact, and we'll set up a time, and let's sit down and let's flush this whole thing out, and let's see what our options are, okay?
So much. I appreciate your time very much.
Hey, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Got to give us your name and address.
Yes, sir. I'm Kevin Homer. I live at 5398 South, 4000 West here in Roy. You do. A little bit later on, y'all are going to be talking about a couple of resolutions, 22-1 and 22-2, that have to do with that property over by Bridge Elementary. I've followed those discussions for the last couple of years when it was initially changed to commercial, and now we're trying to change it to residential, depending on different densities. Been to planning commission meetings on it, and when it's been discussed here in city council and the town hall that we had a couple weeks ago, I thought that there have been some very good points brought up by mostly the citizens that live in the area. Most of those come down to the increased traffic, which, yeah, it's an inconvenience for every single one of us. The concerns about water, which certainly some valid concerns, and also some concerns about the safety of the kids that come and go there at at Bridge Elementary. All very good and valid concerns. I also appreciate the accommodations the developer has made to try and, to change it from commercial to residential, putting the single-family dwellings on that south side and the high-density condos on the north side. I think there's been a lot of really good discussion about it. What I would recommend is that you consider doing one of two things. Either, first of all, the only way to address all the considerations about increased traffic and water usage and safety of the kids at the elementary, put a moratorium on all development within Roy, because one house gets built, it's going to increase traffic, it's going to increase water usage. That's the only way you're going to be able to stop those concerns. Or the other thing, look at the recommendation, the modifications that have been made by the developer. I think they're reasonable. I think it would be a good use of the property. Let's let the property owner actually develop that property. Otherwise, it sits there. We bring in a little bit of tax money from property tax instead of more by letting them develop for multi-family residences. So when it comes time, I would recommend that you adopt 22-1 and 22-2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, anybody else like to share a thought with us? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll go ahead and move on to action items. Appreciate your input to the public comments. We do have a number of action items we want to talk about. First thing is we want to swear in our new youth council member. You got to grab that mic and just introduce yourself, and then I think, Brittany, you're going to go ahead and swear her in? Perfect.
Hi, I'm Nevaeh Parker, and I'm the new youth council member. I go to Roy High School. I'm a junior, so yeah.
Where do you live?
I live oh gosh, now I forgot my address. It's over by the water tower, 5900 South, 2575 West.
Okay.
15
Wonderful.
900 South.
Is
You
it?
don't live at
It's
5900 South.
What is it?
Probably 53 something.
No, it's 59.
You live
5099 South,
50.
2575
there you go.
West. And
the
by the
trans-
a little bit by the water tower and like the
west of 2500, down in that subdivision.
I should have known that.
She's
Sorry,
a little
guys.
nervous.
A little bit, just a little bit.
It's
Well-
only my second time here, so it's all right.
Hey, we're
Is
excited
it your
to have
second
you.
time, really?
You're
Oh my
sitting
goodness.
across this die, yeah.
Yeah.
As is Sophie Paul as well.
Whoa, okay.
This is only her second time
I feel
here.
more comfortable now.
Yeah, it's okay. You're only one ahead of us, so great job.
All right.
Anyway, we're excited to have you. Now, what's going to happen, if you just step down there, Brittany's going to go ahead and swear you in, okay?
Yeah.
And if you got family here, you need to break out your camera.
Her mom would have been here, but she had a snowboarding accident and got a concussion.
Oh, no.
Is that right? Okay, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
We're really excited to have you with us. We've been hoping for this for almost 6 years now. So this is a great day. Thank you.
And just a shout out for Nevaeh. She just took first place in the Utah Wasatch District Championship in original oratory and qualified for the national debate and speech. And she goes to Oklahoma, did you say? Or
Kentucky. in
Kentucky
June,
to
so
represent the state of Utah.
be on the lookout.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That's pretty exciting. Welcome. It's great to have you.
So we'll have another somebody to debate against us on here. She's a professional, so.
Okay. Number 2 on the list is swearing in a newly promoted police sergeant. I think we're going to table that. Are we?
We'll make other arrangements for that.
Perfect. Okay. And it's only because he's out of town.
He planned a vacation long before he tested for sergeant.
Okay.
He's in Hawaii.
Priorities, come on.
He's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay, fine,
Oh,
fine.
Okay. Just make sure we catch it the next time. That'd be great. Thank you. We do have swearing into recent fire department promotions. Chief, you want to talk to us about this? It's a big day.
Yes, big day. So part of the process that you approved, the 2 battalion chiefs obviously also included some other promotions within our department. So with those, we have a couple that are missing today, but obviously our battalion chiefs that were promoted were Battalion Chief Mike Hadley and Battalion Chief Story. So we got those 2 with experience. Hadley has over 21 years of experience, 23. You look at total, but over 21 just with Roy. He's actually one of the ones that started with the high school intern program at Roy and Roy Fire and got his EMT down in the basement, just like many of the ones that started their career this way. So very active in USAR and public education. BC Story, that he's not here today. His little boy took up sick and he wasn't able to make it today, so we'll catch him another day as well. He's going to be heavily in our EMS program as battalion chief, as well as training and stuff on that side of the house as well. Also over 17 years of experience here at Roy, so a good addition on that side of the house. Captain Law, Ryan Law is with us. He's got over 19 years of experience. Very active in our training, developed a training app that we're going to be using now. More pushes us into the kind of the future with our training, the way things are going. So a lot of good things that he's brought to the department as well. Captain Anderson, who's with us here tonight, he's got over 11 years, almost 12 years with Roy. He was one of our first senior medics that we promoted with last year's approval with senior medics. He was moved into that role and is now moved into the captain role. Engineer Sorensen, who's basically with us tonight as well, also has over 11 years of experience, but only a couple here with Roy. His experience is in Summit County as well as with Mountain Green, and now here with Roy, has taken that experience and actually worked very hard and got promoted to engineer early as far as tenure in the department. So good thing. And then our senior paramedic is Beck, who actually moved into the senior medic role that was vacated. He's got over 21 years of experience, worked with Roy for over 20 years, took that year break that you had to take, and then came back and has worked with us again. He's got birthday priorities. So in the fire service and military, you don't get holidays off, so you have to take birthdays off. So his wife's birthday was a priority, so he had to cancel everything else to include being here tonight. So if we could have the rest of them come up, and we'll do the swearing in and do that now, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah, please come up.
Part of this, as you know, too, the pay in these promotions that we've done has been a huge asset, because we've got about a 44% turnover in our department, and that's been huge in these promotions, and the fact that we are able to get these battalion chiefs, put them to work almost immediately, has been awesome to see. So good to have them in those roles.
We'll start again. If you can raise your right hand. Having been elected or appointed to the office, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Well deserved, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Chief. Council, any comments you'd like to make?
No, congratulations. Well
Thank you.
deserved.
Yeah, congratulations.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Thanks for the years of service.
I was just thinking Brandon's story's my son's age, so he must have started when he was 18, if he's been there 17 years, so,
What year did you graduate?
Yeah.
yeah.
What year did you graduate in? What was that?
It was my son, graduated 2002, and he's my son's age, so.
There you go.
Great to see that. Perfect. Okay, we do have an employee of the month, Sergeant Perez.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sergeant Perez, and then I'm here to talk about John Frawley, who's sitting over there with the tie and shirt. I put him in for the Employee of the Month for the city. Just a little thing about John, if you guys don't know, he's like the Tom Brady of Roy City.
He's retiring this year?
He's won more Officer of the Year than anybody. And then I'd never supervised John. It's the first time I supervised him, and now I know why he's won so many Officers of the Year, because he does phenomenal work. But I'll just be talking about one case today. On January 12, 2022, Detective John Frawley was able to make an arrest on a cold case from 2016, where 18-month-old Genesis McCall was murdered in her home at 4995 South, 3100 West. Frawley was not the case agent first assigned to the case, but was one of the original detectives who worked on the case. Frawley has worked on this case on the side for the last couple years to build up evidence to obtain an arrest warrant for the suspect. Frawley has spent numerous hours reviewing old reports, evidence, and body camera footage to find something new that others may have missed, and to collaborate new statements received from 3 female witnesses. Frawley has written an abundance of search warrants and a copious amount of reports in reference to this case. Frawley has conducted surveillance on the suspect, obtained tracking devices to locate the suspect. Frawley came up with a PowerPoint plan to take the suspect down. The suspect has several firearms, which he practices with every day, and he's also made threats to shoot out police if located. Due to how dangerous the suspect was and the fact that he did not live in Weber County, the takedown was planned with South Jordan Metro SWAT and the U.S. Marshals. On takedown day, the suspect was not found with his firearm, but he did ram a U.S. Marshal vehicle in an attempt to flee. The work on this case has not ended since the arrest in January, as now there is a ton of preparation for the court process. Frawley has listened to hundreds of jail phone calls from the suspect, has reviewed thousands of text messages, photos, and chats from the suspect's phone to obtain additional evidence to prevent the suspect from bailing out. Frawley's dedication and compassion towards this case, along with his thorough and detailed work, has brought justice for Genesis. Frawley's actions should make him worthy of the recognition of Employee of the Month.
That's awesome. Congratulations, yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
We have to vote on that, or is that just?
Congratulations. We
That's
appreciate
awesome.
your time and effort.
So hold right there just for a second. Council, are you supportive of this nomination for Employee of the Month?
I make a motion, we accept the nomination for Jared Frawley for Employee of the Month for his great work.
Okay,
Second it?
Diane, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, well done. Thank you.
John Frawley,
Thank
sorry
you.
about that.
Well done. Sergeant Perez, thank you for bringing the nominee to the council. That's excellent. Thank you. Okay, action item number 5, approving ordinance 22-1, amending the general plan. Steve, go ahead and let's go through the conversation and see if we can answer any council questions. Go ahead.
Waiting on computer. I want the audience to be able to see what I'm saying. You all have the packet, so.
There was a hard copy given to you, council.
Maybe. There we go. Okay, I'm going to talk about all 3 items since they're pretty much the same property and project. That way, I don't have to do 3 presentations, and I mean, I guess I could hit record and just represent it the same, but. So this is the request to amend the general plan from commercial to very high-density multifamily. Ordinance 22-2 to amend the zoning map from community commercial to R3 multifamily, and then resolution 22-2 to approve a development agreement between Roy City and Hamlet Development. Just a reminder, the property is located just south of Bridge Academy off of Midland Drive and 3500 West at about 4863 South. There's 4.7 acres of land right here. It was part of 9+ acres before Bridge Academy came in, subdivided the land, and then built their building, leaving this remainder piece. The 2 maps, the future land use map, which is on the left, it kind of shows what the general plan calls for it to be, and the zoning map on the right shows it to be that it is all commercial at this present time. Just kind of to go through the language of the general plan regarding the different types of density, I say is arbitrary, and let me give you the reasons why. The general plan looks at classifications when they look at zoning types. So the general plan calls medium density as 4 units per acre, but then also states that the following zones fit the category of medium density. So R110, R16, R17, and R18. When you break it down, the R110 allows 4.3 units per acre, or for this development, 20.4 units. R18 is 5.5 units, or 25.5. R17 is 6.2 units, or 29.2. And R16 is 7.3 units per acre, or 34.1 units for the whole thing. This doesn't take into account roads and stuff like that. It's just raw ground. The general plan defines high density as 8 units per acre, but also states that the R2 zone meets that category. So the R2 allows 5.8 duplexes or 11.6 units per acre. So on this property, it would be 27.3 duplexes or 54.5 units. General plan defines very high density as 20 units per acre, but our zoning ordinance calls it, or the zoning, the general plan states R3 and R4 meet that category, but our zoning ordinance in the R3, R4 is 12 units per acre. So look at the R2, so it's 0.4 units more than a duplex zone. But that's considered very high density versus high density. So both of them are the same. So this particular development could have 56.1 units. Okay, again, less than 2 units more than an R2 zone. So when you look at what density really is, you look at cities like Ogden, where their R4 zone allows 26 units per acre, their R5 zone allows 50 units per acre, and these are called higher densities. But Hooper, on the far end of the other spectrum, an R4 allows 4.3 units per acre. So one city's high density is 50 units, one city's high density is 4 units, and our very high is 12. Again, it's a very arbitrary definition by the general plan. So the developers come in, and this is the second one for the rezone request for this property. The first one was 100% townhomes. Again, 56 would have been the total that he could have gotten. The current developer is looking to do a mixture of single family and multifamily. So on the screen now is kind of the types of homes that the single family homes will be built as. If I remember right, they're 2,200 square feet to 2,500 square feet, 2-car garage, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedroom. Yeah, okay, 3 or 4 bedrooms. So nice building, very comparable to what's to the south of them. The multifamily, all of them but one is going to be 3plexes or triplex type of design. Would look very similar to this. The max height is 35 feet for both the single family and the multifamily in this zone, which is the same allowance as the single family zone to the south of them. The developer has gone a little farther and provided kind of a conceptual site plan. So in red, it's outlined as where the townhomes will be, and in yellow is where the single-family homes would be. I put also on here the number and types of units. So he would like 38 townhomes, 13 single-family units with a total of 51. Remember, the zone would allow 56. So he's actually asking for 5 less for the total than what the zone could allow. Now with that, he is asking for a development agreement. Some of that is to protect the city, protect the residents of what can be built on there. So the developer within the development agreement has agreed that he'd do 38 townhomes on the north, 13 single-family homes on the south. The city would agree to change the zone to R3, allow for the single-family homes to be on 4,100 square foot lots rather than 6. I mean, still overall, there's fewer homes, and allow the setbacks to change from front yard from 20 to 25, or from 25 to 20, side yard facing the street from 15, or from 20 to 15, and then the regular side yards from 8 to 5. So, 5 feet in front and the side, and 3 feet from the site itself in between. So instead of 16 feet between homes, it could be 10. That's kind of what he was looking for. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing for this. Oh, wow, it was back in November of 2021. They did forward a recommendation of approval for both the general plan amendment and the zoning map. The Planning Commission doesn't look at the development agreement, because again, it's to you guys, so that's why they didn't vote on it, and you wouldn't get a recommendation from them. But staff would recommend approval of both the general plan request, the rezone request, and the development agreement.
Okay.
And the rezone should be contingent on that development agreement being approved and signed.
Okay, anything else, Steve?
Not for me. I know
Okay.
the developer is here, so if you have
Council,
other
we do have the
questions.
developer here and the builder here, so they can answer any questions you might have.
So
Okay.
in clarification, the development agreement goes with the zoning change. So if the developer chooses to sell to someone else, that would be the same development agreement?
Correct. That, you say you approved it, you just approve it with the development agreement attached to that property. I know on 4300 West, the council approved by just saying multifamily to the east of the slough, single family to the west, but no development agreement was done. Here he wants one, so it goes with the land, goes with his property, so if he sells it, or the next person sells it, the city still has that development agreement that the third or fourth person that buys it has to abide by.
Right.
Are there any details, Andy, maybe I can ask you in the development agreement that would be a problem if access is changed or denied, or does it put the city in any concern with 3500 being widened and, you know, maybe UDOT has changes or anything like that?
I'm comfortable with the terms in the development agreement.
Okay, and so I take it that this would be a maximum of 38 townhomes and 13, because if it turns out that we need more space, so maybe the agreement is a max of these numbers.
Right.
But
It-
if something comes up, it may be less.
Developer understands that if UDOT requires some different things, he may lose one or two, but he's not gonna go more than what these numbers are. He knows he still has to abide by the fire department's requirements on road widths and turnaround access points and all that, and then engineers' requirements and UDOT's requirements out on 35. So he understands all of that and has agreed to it, and it's actually part of the development agreement.
Okay,
And these setbacks, are they for all units, townhomes and single family? So all of the
No,
front
the
yard side?
the townhomes would meet the ordinance by what he's looking for. These are all the single family.
Okay,
Because on the plan you've got at the bottom, it's 10 feet setback from the north, and our ordinance allows 8. So he's actually going more on the multifamily and just asking for those little allowances for the single family.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions, comments? Okay. Mike, I'll offer, there were a lot of questions that come up in the town hall meeting. We got a lot of input. I think you're able to answer some of those. You may prepare to want to answer more of those. If you're available or could, please step up to the mic, give us your name, address, if you want to share any more information before we ask the council to vote.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much for your time tonight. My name is Michael Brodsky. My address is 84 West, 4800 South in Murray. I have pretty much the same presentation that I presented to you at the town hall meeting. Would you like me to represent that? I've also given you a detailed package of what is in that presentation.
I'll speak for myself now.
I can gloss over what I believe are some of the answers to some of the questions that were asked by the residents, as well as a little bit of the details in here.
Yeah, I think it would be, Mike, if you would, there was a lot of information shared. At the end of the presentation, you're able to provide some responses to some of the comments that were made, but I'm not so sure, you may have wanted to provide additional information that you weren't prepared based on the comments. And so if there's anything else you wanted to share with the council, please do so. And again, I'll ask the council before we take a vote, is there any other questions or follow-on questions you want to ask to Mike? So tell us what you feel like we need to know in response to some of the comments that took place in the meeting, Mike.
Well, first off, I'd like to just give you a brief explanation of how we got to where we are today.
Can you bring the microphone maybe a little closer so we can hear better to you?
Is that better?
Much better.
Yes, much
Okay,
better.
I don't speak well into microphones, I apologize. When this property was presented to me and I recognized the current zones within the city, it presented challenges because you don't have a code today or a zone today that would permit what we wanted to do. We looked at and understood that your R3 zone would permit us the density that we needed, the number of units. And as Steve explained to you, we are not maxing that out. We've got a design here that we think is appropriate for the property. But in order to make this work, I asked our attorney to talk to Mr. Blackburn, and we understood that the city ordinance would permit us to do a development agreement that would deal with the specifics of setbacks, lot sizes, and those sorts of things that would permit this. I also want to point out that I recognize that what we have presented in front of you is a detailed concept plan. It was prepared by a very experienced engineer who's done a number of residential neighborhoods with me over the last 25 years. And we believe that it will meet all of the code's life safety issues that we need to, the setbacks for UDOT, fire engine access in the neighborhood. We recognized in a meeting last week with Steve and your fire chief that we may need to do a little bit of road widening. There is still the possibility that when we have final engineering here, we may lose a few units. We fully understand that. As far as the comments that were made at the meetings last week, we had a traffic engineer do an analysis of the site. Basically, what he is looking at or was looking at is traffic generated by our proposed use compared to a use that has already been approved here, and demonstrated that the trip generation for the residential community was almost identical to the assisted living facility. Now, I've mentioned this before, that the owner of this property has been unsuccessful in his efforts to sell it as it was approved. If we can't build our neighborhood, he's going to go back to the drawing board, and the potential of using something or finding something that is compatible with your current zone would create significantly higher traffic than what this would. I don't have an answer to the traffic, and the reason I don't have an answer to the traffic is anything that you build here is going to generate at least as much traffic as our neighborhood will. It is a dire need today for this kind of housing. The single-family homes that Alpine will be building and the townhouses that they're building, I'm not trying to tell you that they will serve as affordable housing, but they will still house a pretty significant segment of the population today that needs that kind of housing. One of the other concerns addressed had to do with water usage. I can assure you that the landscape architect that we use is very, very aware of that and how he designs landscape beds. Drip irrigation is a very efficient way of using your precious water resources. The amount of sod, which does consume significant quantities of water, will be minimized. But, and I've showed you, both in my presentation material and in the slides last week, that landscaping is important to the architecture and to the livability and the appearance of the neighborhood. And we pay particular attention to what it looks like, the type of plants that we put in there, and what it's going to look like in 10 years. And so I'm not telling you that there's not going to be landscaping here. In fact, I'm telling you that the landscaping we are going to put in here is a major attribute of this neighborhood. the, water usage, traffic generation, I was surprised that nobody pounded on property values, because I can tell you clearly that having commercial up against residential does impact property values, and not positively. Having single-family detached homes up against single-family detached homes is a great way of preservation of property values. I think for the most part, those were many of the issues that were raised at the town hall meeting. I welcome you to ask me any questions that I might be able to answer.
Thank you, Mike. Council, any questions you have for Mike? Or the builder? I think we've got both of them here today.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Austin Richards is here. Austin is a representative of Alpine Homes as well. So his company will actually be building the homes in here.
Maybe you can just review the timeline that you anticipate for this, the development.
The first step is to get through your planning commission and then come back to you for engineering approval. Based on, pardon?
All planning commission.
Just all planning commission, okay?
Yep.
Based on the discussion we had last week with Steve, we think it'll take 60 to 90 days to do that. Excuse me. Once the engineering is approved and we're ready to come back to you with a record plat, we're ready to start construction. The development phase of this project should take about 4 to 5 months. So I would expect that by September, if everything goes along well, we'll be in a position to actually start building houses. And that means that the development here, and I don't want to minimize the challenges that we will face in getting this development done because of supply side issue, labor issues, but we've got some pretty good crews that we've worked with for quite a few years. And I think that we can get this done in 4 to 5 months to be ready to start building houses.
Okay.
Thank you.
And council, that might be of some value as we're facing another challenge with 5600, because as you well know, 5600, we're going to have to start, UDOT will start making the purchases on that properties. And needless to say, with the plan that going into next year, they will start taking those homes out of 56. And so that might be something you may want to consider in your assessment. So anything else for Mike? Anything else for Alpine? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
for your
that, Mike.
time.
Thank you.
Council, any comments before I ask for a motion? Anything you want to share? Okay. With that then, I do have action item number 5. Do I have a motion then to approve ordinance 22-1 amending the general plan, the future land use map from medium density single family and commercial to very high density multifamily residential at approximately 4863 South, 3500 West? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve that ordinance as stated.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Council, do I have a second to the motion to approve ordinance 22-1? Okay. With that then, this ordinance basically dies for lack of a second. Okay?
Motion.
We'll let it go. Okay? And with that then, there's really no reason to continue with ordinance 22-2 or approve resolution 22-2 because it required the ordinance 22-1 to be approved. So we'll just let it go from there. Okay? Council, let's move then to the discussion items. I've got funding on discussion item. This is G on your list. Funding for a new Children's Justice Center facility. Now, this is simply to give, let me just put this in context, Council. What this requires, what we've been asked to do is we've been asked to basically provide to this organization $142,000 of funding so they can build a new Children's Justice Center on a piece of property in Ogden. There's been some debate about whether or not that should be using ARPA funds or whether we use general funds. That part worked out. What I need from the council tonight is are we willing to support then taking $142,000 of our dollars, whether it be ARPA or whether it be general funds, and we'll work the details of that here in a second, and move forward with that process. And by moving forward, what that will do is they will do a budget amendment. Amber, I think that's how is it a budget amendment? Okay, so if you support us moving forward, we present back to you in the next meeting a budget amendment, and then you will simply vote on that budget amendment, okay? So, let's first, any comments or any questions you might have relative to the Children's Justice Center and our request to fund $142,000 of that?
My understanding is that this money would go to the private volunteer institution. Is that correct? As opposed to Weber County, it would be going to a private entity?
I think to answer your question is, the ultimate objective would be is that it would probably go to a public entity initially, but then that facility, once built, would be turned over and deeded to a private entity. Please.
Go ahead.
So, Matt, in regards to that, I was wondering, are there any concerns about how the money is transferred? I know it's semantics, but could have some legal ramifications down the line if that entity doesn't, uphold, or is that how you understand it, that it would go to Weber County?
Well, and a lot of those things we find out in an audit process later down the road as well. So like right now, we can see that it's a proper use of funds, but the question is who ultimately owns that building is my bigger question. And is it a nonprofit organization or is it Weber County? So if it's the nonprofit, what does our auditor say about that? I can't answer that question until the auditor comes and does a single audit on this funding, so.
But this would be the same process that every other city is going through in the county because of the matched funds?
One of the concerns I have is we do contribute to the Children's Justice Center, and I think as we should put our part in. I do have a concern, though, about it going to a private entity. I think of things we have here in our city. We own the building for the Boys and Girls Club. We own the building for the Senior Center, the Hope Center. I would be more comfortable giving the money to Weber County, let Weber County build and own the property, and then them on a 99-year lease or whatever it is, they lease it to the Children's Justice Center. I don't know that I'm comfortable giving that money to a private entity to build something that in a few years from now, who knows what happens to it.
Yeah, and just for clarification, the funding that they're requesting is just for the actual facility, not for the actual services?
That's correct.
So
Yes.
there is a potential that they could come back, or they will be coming back to ask for an additional in-kind.
They've made a comment in public that indicates they get enough nonprofit funding that they won't come back for any services coming from the cities. So they're not looking for anything near or in the future from the cities to contribute to sustain it.
Okay.
But they are asking in terms we all pitch in to come up with the money to have the facility built.
Okay, so they have not come to us in the past and asked for any, in-kind donation, okay.
But I will tell you, police officers would probably say that there has been a lot of interaction, particularly with Roy City and others, working with and by the way, they're government employees who work within the Children's Justice Center in concert with some medical people that provide some medical assistance in that process. But we do have a lot of interaction when those situations come up. But at this moment, the only thing they're requesting is funding just to build.
For the build, okay.
Yeah, I'd either like to see Weber County be the host agency or, maybe even Ogden City be the host agency. I'd probably feel more comfortable with the county, but I would definitely like to see one of the entities involved be the host for the property.
How would we be able to identify that? Is that something that
We could
you
ask
would
the question, yes.
check
to
into
Weber
for
County
us?
to see if if they wanted support, if that was something that we were wanting to do, that if they would be able to make that happen. So the other point of this conversation is it came by a comment as saying that Weber County will only participate if all cities participate. And if one does that, I kind of feel like all should do that too. So if we do a budget adjustment on this, I would suggest that we do that contingency as
Contingent
well.
upon everybody else.
Yeah.
Would you know if any of the
No.
other cities
Yeah.
have already,
A
I
lot
mean,
of-
we have to give the most next to Ogden City,
Yeah,
hundred and
and
forty-two
most
thousand.
cities haven't made any recommendation.
Aren't we the first?
We were one of the first, us and South Ogden were hit up the same night, and then they're moving to the smaller cities. So.
What do you think, council? What would you like to do?
I'd like to get more information.
Yeah, me
and
too,
see
because
if
I
we
think it's
can-
important, and, I mean, Nevaeh was wanting to know what it was all about. Can you explain it
I think
to
the
her a little
service
bit?
is excellent,
Yeah.
but I believe that we need to fine tune how we go about that type of money.
Who's best to explain what the Children's Justice Center is?
Well, we have the one.
I was about ready to say, Kevin, are you?
Yeah, I could,
Do you mind?
it's a necessity. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, if you do have some questions, please, this gets a little sensitive, so just recognize, but please, if you can keep it as clean as you possibly can, because what they do is very, very difficult.
it is, it's a secure facility. It's one of
Please.
these facilities made to keep these kids comfortable. We have 2 detectives that are full-time into doing sex abuse of kids and child abuse. Right now, if we can't get an appointment or a room in Ogden, our detectives are going down to Farmington because we have to use one of these facilities and we have to use one of their interviewers. We do get some of our detectives that are, they call them forensic interviewing fit interviewers, so they can go and do these kids. It's an invaluable resource that we, like I says, I think everybody agrees it's a resource that is very well needed. And like I says, I think there's 3 rooms that we can do these interviews in right now in Ogden. And so a lot of times we're sending families down to Farmington to take care of this, so.
So it's a secured facility for interviewing, but it's also a secured facility for them to stay at?
No.
Well, if I recall correctly, that's what this new facility would actually
And
provide.
this is the first time I've ever heard about this new
Yeah.
facility, but yeah, there's not rooms there for these kids to stay at.
Currently.
It's simply a place for investigations and
Yeah.
medical issues, so.
Yeah, for nurses and mental health, they evaluate everything and assess them, but
And so, yeah, it's the government pretty much run that. We've got DCFS,
Right.
Child Protective Services, they're all involved with this, so. So I know just personally speaking that I've been in these facilities and I've used them as an investigator, invaluable, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You say a host cities. Is there anything else that we can, do we have anything that we can host? Like, I know we're one of the largest that use it. Are we not?
What's that?
The largest city,
Consumer
Ogden,
next to
and then
Ogden.
Roy.
and Roy.
So,
We all share the one in Ogden, right?
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there was an email that came from Chief Gwynn that talked about this. If you go back
Yeah.
here a month and a half or so back.
So to say, could we be a host, like, could we help? I know the facility they're looking at is in Ogden, right?
We'd have to identify the property. That's,
But we don't
Yeah.
have the staff and the,
Yeah, it's the
the
staff.
building.
It's the
Yeah.
building.
Well, I think the
it's
staff and all that's provided, would be provided by the CJC. I think
Yeah.
what they're looking at is assistance to build the building.
Yeah.
And that might be more centrally located and better served in Ogden.
Ogden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
to
also-
that point, it really comes down to this. The facility that's currently being used is limited. Sometimes children, and those are children defined anyone under the age of 18, children sometimes with their parents will have to sit in rooms with other children and parents. And it creates a really difficult situation when they can't isolate them and go through this process to help not only find the problem and find an answer and do the investigation, but provide some privacy as they're working through this difficult situation. And so if Farmington has capacity, then they'll send them to Farmington. But with 67 of these out of Roy, That's the latest number we had in a year. It's probably grows, and the pandemic has created more problems with stress within families. And as the county grows, and it continues to grow, the challenge we run into is that ultimately Ogden needs to have a new facility. It needs to have a facility that is a custom, and secure is probably a right answer because you're providing an element of protection, okay, for the victims, as well as providing some privacy for the victims so they can kind of get past this and move on. Now, having said that, unless you tell me differently, the really only concern you have in terms of investing in this facility with taxpayers' money is the fact is, tell me if I'm wrong, about taking this building once it's done and handing it over to a private organization. Right. If you think that is really the thing that would hold you back to say, yeah, I want to support it, I think it's a good thing we can do and we're willing to use this or even ARPA funds, and we got roughly $4-some-odd million. Part of that's come, some more will come, that we can use some of that money to pay for that bill. Then we're willing, Matt and I are willing to go back to the county and to the Children's Justice Center and says, hey, it's not that we're unwilling to do that, we just have some real concerns about putting this edifice in some type of private sector's hands that maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, they may choose to do something else with the building.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if that's really the heart of this, then we can table this, okay, until we can find a better solution or they come up with a better solution. And we can do that, but give me an idea, because I don't want to move forward with this and have Matt and Amber go up there and provide a adjustment to the budget in our next meeting if you are not comfortable at this moment this thing is right for Roy City.
I'd like to see it be taken back and to see if the facility and property can be city or county owned, and then it put on a long-term lease with the CJC.
I don't believe that it's a question of whether or not it's
Yeah.
a good thing to do. I believe it's just the technicalities.
Yeah.
Okay.
But does a privately owned company that runs mental health issues and issues that these children will go to, don't they have to account to, that the state, the way they're run, and would that be a horrible thing if that's what happened? I mean, there's a lot of private facilities that are run. I'm just asking that question. So.
Couldn't they sell the building? I mean,
Right, yeah, the concern
honestly,
is we turn around and we fund a building, and then 3 years down the road, they're like, ooh, commercial real estate's great, let's flip the building.
Well, as long as they kept the building for that use. Yeah,
Correct. That's why putting it like under a city or county control makes more sense, if they're the ones that actually own.
They'll continue to use private help,
Sure.
and that, we're just talking about the facility, the building.
Facility itself, the
Yeah.
physical
Well,
facility,
I think then
yeah.
we should look into that, because I think there's a need for it, and we need to.
oh, sure.
Yeah, we need to move forward. I mean, it's just like you're seeing more and more that counties and states are building jails and prisons, but they're privately operated. So the county owns the county or the state owns the property and the building, but it's privately run.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
we don't want to give them that money, because they said half of it would be donated by
Yeah.
the builder, and the land's donated.
Correct.
Yeah.
So then we don't want, them to, like you said, turn around and have some developer come in and buy it and build housing.
I'd have to imagine they have to have some type of contingency. Again, we don't know.
Right.
It's one of those, I would say
Just
to
look
move
into it,
forward,
so.
we make a contingent upon potentially like a city or county owning it, and 2, all the cities signing off on it. That would be my 2 contingencies that I'd be comfortable with.
Everybody okay with that
Yep.
approach?
Yeah.
That sounds
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take that. I'll mark it, we're not moving ahead until we get some more answers, okay?
Right.
Perfect. Fencing, we talked about this before. There was a fence that was adjacent to Station 32. I won't try to get into whether or not that was the right size fence or that the city needs to work that. But there was a request from the property owner, since that's an adjoining property fence, okay, between the fire station and the resident has asked the city council if we'd consider help offsetting some of the cost. Comments?
I understand that's a vinyl fence that's being requested.
It's actually cement.
It's
Oh,
like
it's
a
cement?
retaining wall. It's
Okay, I
haven't
heard,
driven past
the
it.
first thing I heard
It
read
looks like
cement.
vinyl, yeah, but
But
it's
then
like
the
a
last one,
slatted
okay.
It's
Well, great, so that's
oh,
more
what's it
sturdy.
called?
Mhm.
Who would then have the obligation for maintenance, although if it is cement, the decorated cement, the maintenance would be less likely to be a problem. But how would that work for maintenance, upkeep, repairs, that sort of thing?
I think if we owned half of it, we would have to maintain half of it, but like you said, it's pretty maintenance-free being the type of fence it is. And it's actually up. It looks great.
Yeah, it's already in place.
So-
I went down and looked at the fence and went and looked at the property line, and looks great to me. I mean, I think if he wants a nicer, better fence, then I don't think that's our responsibility to build him one or even pay half. That's just my opinion. I
No.
looked at it, and I think the fence that's there right now looks great. And
I'm concerned
That's
about
just my-
precedents because there has been other situations where residents have come forth, as you well know, Mayor, and wanted us to build cement fences and barriers and all that. I think we have to be very careful to not set a precedence because then there's, as soon as you set a precedence, if anybody wants to come forward and say, hey, I don't like what's behind my property, I want the city to help me build a nicer fence or a bigger fence, I wouldn't support it.
Okay. Other thoughts before I ask you which way we go with this?
So in the past, have we done kind of the good neighbor concept? That happens pretty frequently for people to share a fence. Has the city done that in the past? Speaking of precedents.
Not to my knowledge, but typically, like with our parks, we do put chain link fences up. I can't tell you for certain, but I believe that we put the chain link fence there in the first place because the fire station was there prior to his house.
And it's a nice fence. It's still in, it's not falling down, and slats look good. We went down and looked at it, and I mean, maybe he could put what he wants on the other side of that fence if he doesn't like the looks of it, but it works great, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's the concern is I walk Amarillo every day, and some of those houses have chain link fence, and some of them have a wooden fence, and
Right.
some of them don't have fences, and some of the fences have been knocked down. What stops every one of those people that border city property to come forth and say, I want help paying for a fence?
Right. That's the concern.
Right.
I'm really concerned about that.
It's a slippery slope.
Okay, can I take then as a conclusion, the majority of you believe that we probably should not venture in any type of effort here to provide compensation for part of that fence? Everybody, okay?
Nope.
That's good. I just need to make sure we get that answer. Ross, I think you're gonna talk maybe a little bit about, or Matt, relative to the street light. About last year, and I apologize, council, some of you may not have been aware, but there was a request for a street light on 2350 West. It's a dog bone turn, and there's a light on one corner and there's a light on the other, but there's some dead light spots, okay, in the middle because the road turns, leaving it some.
What south
some
is
dark-
this? Or
Right, the road that runs into my house, 2350. You drive down 2350, come to the stop sign, and you run into my house. That's 2350.
And it's that dog bone right there. And some of the neighbors in the subdivision asking the city if they would in fact consider, if Roy City would consider putting some type of a light in there, because at nighttime, there's some challenges with some dark spots because of the way that road is positioned, intersections positions, and if you know, there's two light posts in the intersection, but nothing in that dog bone turn. Ross is.
navigate a straight
Matt,
line
you
when
guys.
the road actually zigs when it should zag.
Excuse
We
me.
approved it already.
So in this initial review, Mayor, you mentioned we have a policy and it's outside of the policy. Public Works has gone out to talk to the residents down there. There is a pole out front. The individual with the pole in the front is a renter to the property, my understanding, right? Somebody told me that, but the pole is owned by Quest. So long story short, the process to get a light there is full of getting other people's permissions. If we were to put it on the Quest pole, we have to get permission by Quest to put it on their pole, which they have not responded to our request yet. Then Black & McDonald has to get a request through Rocky Mountain to get a bid on it. And then we have to get another request to Rocky Mountain to actually put the power to it. So about a year ago, well, actually back in August, we started putting a light in on 4000 by the railroad tracks. That is not complete. The light's in, everything's done, but we're waiting on Rocky Mountain Power. So the reason why I'm kind of explaining this is a lot of this is out of our hands. A lot of this is other companies doing it. But the pole we talked about today, if we get it submitted by, if Quest allows us to put it on the pole, there is the ability to do solar lights as well. So we could try that out as our first solar light. If we do have problems with residents, we can put shields on there. But Public Works will talk to the residents. But long story short, we do need to have the permission by them. If we put it in other places, there's cement in the right of way as well.
And when you
So,
say Quest, you mean CenturyLink?
it says, yeah, probably, it says Quest on the pole, but yeah, CenturyLink.
So didn't we already approve to put this light up on 2350 a while back?
Yeah, we talked about it in a city council meeting, yes.
And then, but it's not that pole where she wants the light, right?
There was, yeah, the email that she originally sent out, she was saying that the resident at that location didn't want that light. When we went out, it was a renter at that residence, so we don't know if it was the original resident or not. The light, the CenturyLink pole would be the easiest place for the city to put it in, because if we do it somewhere else, it's gonna be more costly. One, because we have to provide a pole. Two, because there's stuff in the way of where we need to put it in.
Okay, I'll go talk to her, 'cause as far as I know, I don't know anybody that rents any property on that road. They're all homeowners, so I'll go talk to the homeowner that originally asked for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Find out all the information and get it back to you, okay?
Okay.
So where do you want to go with this? Are we supportive of the idea if we can work out the details? Or do you basically, because the policy, and Ross can define the policy basically says that city has 1,300 feet, okay, between light to light. This is sitting about 675 feet. So it's half the distance.
Are you supportive of it, Ross?
What do you think?
How do you feel about it, Ross? Because I'm fine with it. It's a light.
So the
I think that
solar
sounds good.
versus the regular, what's the cost difference? I mean, I'm hoping solar is,
Power from Rocky Mountain Power and do everything is about $3,800, and this solar one's $500.
I'm sure
done.
she would be
Do you want my
fine
credit
with
card?
us.
You want my credit card?
Take it.
Yeah.
Will you read that over the pulpit, please?
the city doesn't have any other solar lights? Okay.
I'll bring that up
Pass
to
it
her.
Are the solars as effective?
You can meet the same,
Lumens, you can get the same lumens out of a solar as you can a wired electric.
Ann gets
give
the
it to the
remote. I
residents.
vote Ann gets the remote since it's her
We don't
kind
need
of
everybody
neighborhood.
So you can play Dumbledore that shuts the lights out in the middle of the night?
No.
As long as we have sun.
How do we want to proceed, council?
I would like to proceed if it is feasible, and if it looks like we have to spend a lot more money, then just let us know. But if it looks within the reason we've discussed,
I'll second
Get
that
that
motion.
approval?
Yeah, I'll
even-
third it, fourth it.
Everybody okay with that?
I'll give you my
Okay.
credit card.
And if you don't mind, would you reach out then?
I will.
He's with me.
See if we can work that, and if you get back with Matt, we'll fine
for it,
tune
won't put
this,
your
and let's
name
see if
on
we
it.
can come up with something. Perfect, thank
This
you.
light provided by.
Ann, I'm gonna put you and Matt on the spot. How's our welcome to Roy signs coming?
Well, yeah, I called the guy the other day when I saw this was on the agenda, and he got COVID and was really sick, and then he said he had to wait for the weather to get better, and I was like, the weather has been pretty good, but so it has to be at least 70 degrees to heat the rock. That he has all the artwork for the one on the south by Sacco's. He's going to get going on that one, and then as soon as the weather is warm enough, he's going to get going on the other one. And I just have been like, okay, I'm going to have to tell them, and you're throwing me under the bus here, buddy. So let's get going. It's been a long time, and so he said he's going to get going on it, and
Okay,
so.
Keep
And
us-
trust me, I'm going to keep calling him.
perfect. Keep us posted, Ann. This is,
Yeah.
these are great edifice. I mean, if you've gone by there, they look great. The only thing that's missing is welcome to Roy.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So
We have
it's
to go spray paint something on there one of these days.
squeaky will, Ann. Be that squeaky will.
Yeah, I like, so thank you, Ann. Keep us posted. We'll ask you maybe in a few months, see how that's moving if we don't see too much on that. Thank you. Steve, I think you can help us with the catwalks. Can you give us an update where we are on that?
Places you walk.
No.
Walk the catwalk there, Steve, walk the catwalk.
Two of them, we're just waiting on plats to be finalized. The applicant on 5200 South of 19, they're the ones that requested, so we're making them draw the plat up. We're just waiting for them to actually bring it back to us. The one on Roy Junior High, Wasatch Civils just needs to draw it up. We talked about it and what we needed to do and stuff, so that one's already in the works. The one at Halvern, I'm just waiting. We sent out letters to the 4 homeowners to find out who wants what, because after Brandon had gone up there year and a half ago, and I just wanted to make sure they were new people. So I didn't want to say, hey, you're not getting any of it, because, so we're waiting for a couple of them to respond saying yes or no. And then we'll get plats drawn up for those.
Okay, and then Ross, I think some of that may require some improvements because those people may not necessarily be in a position to make those adjustments to the property. So if I understand, then plats be done first, we get that assigned, and then the Public Works can go in and clean the property so that they can use it. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've told them we've told them that he'll do the job.
That's perfect.
Yeah, they'll remove the concrete and fences and then replace the fences.
Yeah.
The one at Roy Junior High is just remove one fence because the property owner of the north wants it all, and the property owner south doesn't want any of it, so.
Perfect. Okay.
Makes it easier.
Excellent. Okay. We'll come back maybe in 3 or 4 months, see how we're progressing. Just want to clear this one off the checklist we've got. Council, let me just take, Matt, maybe you can lead away. Each one of you got a challenge coin sitting in front of you. Comment, Matt?
So this is very prominent in public safety. Our fire department has challenge coins, our police department has challenge coins, and you oftentimes get them from military personnel. But it's an achievement to receive one of these challenge coins from somebody. It's usually done with a good deed. And so the idea here was to go ahead and purchase. You can see, I believe those are the 75th, so they're a little older. But updating those challenge coin for mayor and city council, that when somebody does a good deed, such as like employee of the month or citizens or whatever, to have that available to give out.
Wonder people come here from the water. That's what our 75th year challenge coin says.
Yep.
From the water flowed Roy City.
We're trying really hard not to make a car wash comment, so I'll leave it at
I
that.
wasn't going to say the
I know.
CW comment.
I should have said CW.
So what kind of good deeds would this be? And then like who would receive them? Employees or outside people or all? And like what year would be placed on them? So are they dated or can it be just generic? And
I think probably
so
generic.
there you have it. Those are
Anybody can design it
first.
but me, because I'll do a horrible job, so.
And how many and how much does it cost? And are there any other alternate solutions for doing a good deed? And
So across the street, Point Emblem does challenge coins. Roy Business, and they do a fantastic job with the artwork, everything. And really, it's your guys' discretion of what you would like on there. You don't have to put dates. A lot of the time, we don't have dates. Obviously, with the 20th year for 9/11, there was dates associated with that one. But oftentimes, the challenge coin that I got from the military doesn't have anything to do with the date, so it goes on for a little bit longer. I think the more you order, the cheaper it does get. But yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of it to, be able to give it to an employee of the month or a citizen that does an exemplary job, or even an employee that doesn't maybe make employee of the month, but you see them go out of their way to do something. I think it's an easy way to do recognition.
And I think, correct us if we're wrong, the safety departments basically do have challenge coins. I have seen those. How would you typically then present, or what would you do with the challenge coins if you have them?
Depended on the chief. Like we've had one chief that gave them to everybody, and then we had one chief that saved them just for maybe the kids that came in and did tours of the police department. So it's just it's kind of dependent on the chief, but we've given them to kids at junior high for winning awards or something like that. Just something to say good job.
Okay.
So are they given in a setting like this, or are they given in a setting like staff meeting? Like,
Sometimes they were just giving them to them right on the spot.
okay.
So I have a
got a Chiefs coin, basically that means a lot. So that means like firefighter of the year, something significant that would earn a Chiefs. Way above and beyond the job. The department coin is to everybody. So a general department coin I give to everybody because a part of the challenge coin is if they want, they basically want to do a coin check and they're going to stop and buy drinks at the thing. Somebody calls a coin check, this is a tradition, and somebody doesn't have their coin, they buy.
Right.
So this is the challenge. That's the point of a challenge coin, is to throw out a challenge. And if you throw out a challenge and everybody's carrying their coin or their pride in their department or their pride in their organization, and they have their coin, the person that calls the coin check buys the drink.
Right.
So that's a use of the challenge coin and a partial tradition, but more towards the drinking side of the house with the military.
Yeah,
So
and it's a military concept, and we've seen that a lot in the military. But here's really the heart of how it's beneficial to the council and even senior leadership. You're going to witness great employees doing great things. And there's something about going up there and simply says, man, I'm so impressed, okay, what you did, and then handing them one of your coins. Or you're walking out there and you just see somebody out there doing something, a resident, just doing something. They went out there and cleaned up, or they did something to help that broader community. And you got 2 or 3 of these, and you walk up and you give that individual recognition. Trust me with this comment. They will oftentimes, a lot of times they will get monetary, but rarely does the person remember what they spent the money on. But they never forget. If you hand them a Chiefs coin, or you provide them a council or leadership coin, they will keep that, and they will remember that. The challenge we have as council, the challenge we have with city managers, and oftentimes some department heads, excluding our chiefs, is that we don't have that tool. We don't have that opportunity to see something, witness something, and recognize. And if you come back 4 months from now and says, I really do appreciate what you did three or 4 months ago, it's not right. It's not even valid anymore. What you need is the opportunity to say, you did something great for this community, and I want to recognize you on the spot for that contribution. And this is a mechanism to do that. Now, you can do anything else you'd like to do. You can do anything you want to do as council. But this gives you a little opportunity to where you can simply go up there, keep a couple with you, and when you witness something that is good, something significant, something that's worthy, you make that determination, whether that is a 10-year-old or whether it's a 90-year-old. It means so much for that individual. Not just the fact you took the time to recognize it, but you gave them something that's that important they can keep. And they do keep these. They do keep these.
Was this the coin you had me give to that soccer coach?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it works, and it's
He
important.
was honored to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we design it. We can get some ideas if you'd like. We can sit down and kind of group up some ideas of how you'd like it to look, what you want it to say. But the important thing would be is that think about it. If you like it, let's build one. Let's have 500 of them made. And then when a council member finds an opportunity, when a leader finds an opportunity to share at the moment the opportunity is there, then let's have them in your purse, in your pocket, so that you can make that share. And I think it can make all the difference in the world. And Ann, you may witness that in the high school, okay? Ms. Parker, same thing. You can witness these great things in all the right places. We just want to give you something where you can do something about it, okay? Are you okay with us moving towards this? We can work up some designs, get your input, but we don't want to proceed and do anything unless you're okay with this idea to move forward.
I think
just
it's
have
a great
follow-up
idea.
question. Chief, you were talking about, like what do people do with these, you know? And so you were saying, I guess some type, you're supposed to keep them with you, but others, I guess it's like a little trophy you put on a shelf. Is that the type of thing, or?
I have my coins in my pocket right now.
So.
I carry it with me all the time, and I have my shelf. I have a shelf from what I've collected in my career.
So they're just kind of like a little trophy sort of thing that people.
Yeah, I just got a case for Christmas. That's all I wanted was because I've received several of these over the years and wanted to be able to display them in my office. And so I got a case that you can put these in, and I've got them from police department, fire department, sheriff's department, from my work. They're just, they're neat to collect.
And
They
it's-
generally have sentimental value to them.
They do.
Because they mean something.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and we need to order them, and I think that the company that's gonna make them would probably could maybe put a few ideas together and then let us vote.
Can
Maybe
we do
put the
something
burger
like
bar on there.
500? Like, is 500 out of the question, or is that like what's our recommendation? How?
Well, can we get a bid and see how much they cost first?
Get some prices.
We'll get
See how
prices, bring it
much.
back to the council. And if the price seems to be reasonable, the quantity seems to be right, the design seems to work, we'll just go with your approval to move forward and make it happen. Are we okay with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
We got a majority. Thank you. Okay, we'll move forward with that. Okay, Council Business Advisory Board. Two parts to this we want to talk about. Did you have a chance to read through the Business Advisory Board policy, the draft? Any comments or questions?
So
Now, I will share with you one thought, and this is really important as we go forward. I'm going to ask you, in all fairness, do we want to continue the Business Advisory Board?
I
And that's
vote
an
no.
important thing, because if it doesn't feel like, hey, we're using it the way it was originally designed, and I think it provided some really good stuff when it first was designed 4 years ago. It might very well be that we have matured beyond that and we can do something different. So I'm going to ask you two questions. If we move forward, then we got a thing that I like Andy to help us define in terms of whether ordinance or resolution, or the question then would be is, if you don't think we should, we can just try something else. Let's get that out and get it on the table tonight.
Let me back
We
up my
should try
comment.
something else.
Yeah, let me back up my comment of saying no. And all due respect, Mayor, you made a go of it. I made a go of it. Brian Saxon made a go of it. It's a great thought and idea. It's just the avenue for doing it doesn't seem like that it's ever panned out. My recommendation would be is we have an economic development committee, just like you have a beautification committee that I believe has residents on it. Could we take our economic development committee and take two business owners or whatever the number is of Roy and bring them onto that economic development committee? Now, there are some sensitive things that we would have to, let them know that, hey, this is close hold, or we're not going to have you come to this meeting because we're talking about sensitive property acquisition or stuff like that. But that's almost what I would like to see is us bring some business owners, 1, 2, 3, and be a part of our economic development committee and try to work that direction versus a standalone board that if we get too far, do we have to start noticing meetings, taking minutes, funding them?
Understand. A good
I mean,
comment.
you and I were on the same page with it. I thought it was a great idea. It just doesn't seem like the avenue has panned out the way that we all intended, and I'd like to see maybe steer it a different direction and
Okay.
get some people on our
Great
economic
comment.
Agree.
development.
My daughter was on it, and she agrees with everything you just said.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I have a question, Andy, in regards to the confidentiality. If we have someone join the Economic Development Committee, is there a contract that could be developed that says, certain things you hear or?
Couldn't we just have them sign a standard NDA
Personally, I wouldn't even want them in there
if we're just,
Okay.
okay, makes sense.
anybody outside of the city should be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I say. If we're talking sensitive stuff, just not have them come to that meeting.
Okay. Thoughts, council? Are we agreeable with that strategy?
I think to proceed along that line might be a nice approach.
Okay.
And then I think the decision is, one of the things I would kind of like to redefine is like what the real purpose of it is. Because, I think part of what the previous BAB did was it really went out of its way to welcome new businesses, which I thought was very nice. Now, I know there's a Chamber of Commerce that kind of does it, but it was local. And how much of it is a welcoming part of it? How much of it is a true fundamental economic development guidance portion? Because that's, going to be more technical. How much of it is helping with policy? And then business owner versus citizen. Sometimes business owners are good because they have insight, but then they're usually busier if they're if they're independent contractor or their own self-business. And then you want to make sure that they're, altruistic, which of course can be a problem with anybody, versus a little more self-serving. So as we do that, I think those are some thoughts that we should consider as we decide, 2 members, 3 members, one business owner, one just in the community, or
Well, and I think some of the things you talk about, welcome business and that, I anticipate as part of the Economic Development Committee that you and I sat on, that ought to be something we engage in as well, is, welcoming new businesses and bird dogging new businesses coming and giving them to whatever avenue, whether it's Matt or our Economic Development Advisor, and, getting some counsel from outside people that do not sit on the council, I think is a good idea. And so having, like you say, whether it's a resident or a business owner, or maybe it's one of each or something like that, I'd kind of like to see us develop this within our Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
One
Good
thing,
comments.
One thing I think you could look at too is you don't necessarily have to have them be a member of the committee.
Right.
They could be there at invitation.
Advisor to the committee or
From
something.
time to time, you'd
Yeah.
have them come to that meeting and say, hey, what could we do better? What do you think? Rather than having them involved in some of these discussions that you're typically going through, you could set up times throughout the year where you may want to just have them on an invitation basis.
and maybe ask them.
And I don't know if that works for you, but that's just another possibility.
Okay.
I think we ought to look at it.
Yeah, and by invitation, then we would ask them specific topics or things they could think about or study about, or,
Right.
okay,
Give them time to do that and then have them come back
Okay.
later. And I
That's
think
a great
that
idea.
might be a little better than even having them on the board.
okay,
So-
thanks, Sandy.
Great comments. Okay, we'll go ahead and move in that direction then. Thank you. Waste Pass. Matt, you want to talk to us about this program?
Yeah, so last year we started doing a waste pass. As you guys remember, we had a program in the city where we had dumpsters provided to the residents. And it came with a significant cost. So we were looking for a way to do something similar with a lesser cost. So last year, first year, we did $5,000 worth, 50 passes. Talked to the transfer station. Everything went really smoothly, but we were wanting to consider doing that again. So what our idea was is last year we implemented this program in April, along with spring cleanup, and it's just upon request, residents can come in. It's valued at about $10, so basically a free dump pass, and that would be $5,000. We could take it and pay for it out of our solid waste. We have plenty of money in there to do so. So just kind of wanted to get a blessing to move forward with that. We could start advertising it and everything.
How many passes, Matt, we thinking about doing?
I would like to increase the program because we did run out. It becomes a very useful tool for our code enforcement officer as well when they go and say, can you please clean up these weeds or whatever? Here's a pass. It's free.
Up at the 75 or 100, what are you thinking?
We did 500
Yeah,
passes.
500.
last
Oh,
year.
really?
And about
Oh,
how,
yeah.
You ran
Sorry.
out of 500?
Yeah, we
500
ran out.
passes and we ran
500.
out.
and about how, from when to when did we run out? When did those?
It seemed like it was later on in the summer, so toward the end of the year.
So what about 750?
Yeah, 750.
800.
And do we know if those passes were actually used versus passing them out? Handing them
That's
out.
very difficult to see because they take them to waste management and they do turn them back in, but really they don't check IDs or anything out there.
So we buy them first and then we give it, or is it a voucher that the waste management then bills us?
So we print them out and then they bill us for it. And it just comes in, we pay for our tipping fees anyway, so they just added it to that bill.
So do we only pay for what we use, what
we
they
have-
take
Correct.
in? That's
So
how
if
you're
somebody
saying
came
that?
in, didn't turn it in to them, we would not pay for it.
So, okay, so
Okay.
let me clarify. We're not out anything unless somebody goes and uses
Correct.
it. And we allocated 5,000 last year and we spent all 5,000?
500.
Or
500.
500, right.
Is,
But they were $10
yes.
a piece.
So $5,000.
$5,000.
5,000 was the,
is there a way, or is it too much to say that we write their name on it and that has to be the name that shows up?
We do, but when they go to the transfer station, do they?
They're not checking
They're not-
IDs.
yeah.
They're not gonna wanna be bothered.
Well, and like like if I did something, my brother would take it for me. I'm not, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to limit. husband.
Only the brother, the husband.
You just outed your
It's
husband.
probably the same thing I just said to him, because your husband won't.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
You might not
Because
have a
I'm getting
truck.
rid of my husband's stuff. No.
Yeah, she does it when I'm out of
I'm
town.
kidding. So, okay. I just don't think I don't want to tie a name to that because I think that's where you put like.
And we did have, my understanding is we did have like neighborhoods coming in to help somebody out and come in and say, hey, can we get a couple of these? And so they had a couple of people come in to go clean up somebody's yard in the neighborhood. So there was.
Which is great.
Yeah, there was that too.
Because I don't have a truck. I have my son come and haul all my stuff off, so.
And so there was like this $5,000 limit, and when we got out of that limit, we knew we were done. So it wasn't so much passing out the certificates, it was, budget was set, and then that was the end.
But even at $7,500, that's quite a bit of savings compared to what we were spending.
The old
dumping
program
dumpsters.
was around 350,000.
Right.
So this is a significant.
Maybe we increase it. to
Well,
1,000
that brings a good point. Let's make sure we understand the details. Are we saying this is a substitute for the spring and fall dump?
We're still planning on doing those.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
still do
So,
those
yeah.
in a public.
But not
So
the
this just
neighborhood ones.
enhancement to
Yeah,
that?
just not the
Okay.
neighborhood ones.
Council, what do you think?
No,
You
I
okay?
I think it's a
Continue?
good
Even if we
program.
upped it to 1,000 passes, if they don't get
If they
used,
don't
we're
use it,
out
we're
of
not out anything.
That's correct.
We allocate
That would be
10,000.
my.
That's 10,000. Do we have 10,000 that we could put into it, basically?
Yeah.
Okay,
in that
you
fund.
okay with 1,000
Then he pull
passes,
out his
council?
credit
No,
card. I
no,
heard him
for-
earlier.
for the
I'm
solar
good for
light.
that.
Yes.
Are you okay with that?
Right.
Okay.
Tree hugger in.
Then we'll plan for 1,000, and then we'll execute the plan much like we did last time. We just need to get the message out to everybody, okay?
All right.
Okay, let's go ahead, Matt. We'll move forward with that. Perfect. And then, of course, starting, I think, April 20th, for the 2 weeks, April 20th, I believe, we'll begin the spring cleanup, and access to the city dumpsters will be available to residents then. Okay, perfect. Okay, city manager's report. Matt, you want to
Okay,
share?
Just a couple of things for tonight. We had a discussion, Andy.
Must have been a funny one, huh?
We had a discussion a while ago about the Parks and Rec Department coming up with areas in the city to do xeriscaping. The plan's almost done. They've identified those areas. They wanted to key in on places that would actually save us from going out and having to mow or something like that, and then non-recreational areas. So the Recreation Department will be doing a presentation shortly on that. We wanted to, if it was a go, we wanted to coincide that with our budget. So
Perfect.
that'll be coming shortly. Another thing that the Water Department's been working hard on is changing out the meters for radio reads. As you know, we do a bi-monthly bill here in the city, and it was primarily because it was so hard to read all the meters in the city. So right now, it's a radio read where they drive around a truck, and we can do it year-round. So we're proposing to go monthly billing starting in June. That would be for the May bill. And that means the last bill would be March and April, and that's the catch-up bill for the winter months as well. So we wanted to start getting the word out for that. Really, in a nutshell, is just cutting the bill. 50% would be your new bill, that you just pay it monthly instead of bi-monthly. We are one of the few cities, actually the only city I know of, that we do bi-monthly billing.
What's the cost increase for going monthly?
Nothing.
The cost increase to the residents,
Well, because for us, because it's
for
going
us,
to.
there would be a cost increase, mainly with employees processing the payments. There would be financial transaction charges with the bank. We haven't quite quantitated that yet, but there will be an increase. We believe that we could absorb it in the funds, though.
Could you come back next month with a tentative of what it would cost us? I
Yeah,
mean,
we
I'm
could-
all for
We
it.
could do a real guesstimate of where it's at.
Yeah, the cost versus the benefit, maybe just summarize that with the details. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding, that's part of the reason why we went to the Roy Connection was to get a monthly newsletter out that wasn't going out every other month with the billing.
Yep.
And so I think that's been a great asset to people, and we constantly get enhancements to that, so that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. All the years my mom lived here, she paid monthly even though she got billed.
And a lot of
because
people do,
she
yeah.
was on a limited income and it was just easier for her. So I think for senior citizens on limited income, it will be better for them to pay monthly.
And you can set up automatic billing too.
Yeah.
I should have known
But
that,
back
but
in the
Matt
olden
informed me
days,
of that
we
earlier
didn't know how to
today.
do that.
Okay, great comments. I think the only thing we need to do, if you don't mind, we need to get the message out. Council's supportive of it,
Yes.
starting in June. let's take this time between now and June to get the message out. Roy Connection magazine, anything we can to let the people know it's coming, and then it won't be surprised when they get a bill that basically is half,
Okay.
and they'll know now we're in that process. Okay, perfect. Anything
And
else,
that-
Matt?
Yep, couple more things.
You said two, you already hit that.
Well, yeah, sorry, I can end that. We have the Boys and Girls Club does an annual dinner. It's typically in October, and this year they've decided to do it in March. It's actually March 26th. They've sent out an email. This is the first time they're doing it this time of year. But I wanted to get your guys' input on that to see if you wanted us to get a table. The table prices are typically around $1,000 for 10 people.
So it won't be the
it's
Scarecrow anymore.
It's not the Scarecrow, but it's the same thing as the Scarecrow. But I wanted to get your guys' input to see if you guys had the desire to attend, to participate.
That's the night of the junior prom, Nevaeh just told me.
Oh.
So,
What
There you go.
kind of money and funding do we already donate to the Boys and Girls Club?
So the biggest thing is actually the building. So as you know, we own the building next door, the Hope Center, and they're in the basement. The other thing is during this event, they typically have auctions, and we auction off 2 nights at the Aquatic Center. That's more of an in-kind donation.
Right.
And then this would be the only donation, to my knowledge, of the $1,000 for a table.
I mean, if you can get enough people that's willing to go, I would support it.
And that would come out of which fund department?
Legislative.
Legislative?
Mhm.
Council contingency funds.
Right. Council, thoughts?
I would go, but I want to go if my granddaughter gets asked to prom to go take pictures first. Sorry.
Well, here's the secret, and Matt and I talked about this. If you're supportive to it, the real secret would be is that you got to be there.
Right.
Because if we're going to buy 10 seats,
Yeah.
then there needs to be 10 people in those seats.
What time's it start?
Typically around 6:30. I haven't seen a start time on it, though.
And you said it's the 25th?
26.
26. I've been to one years ago when it was the Scarecrow one.
Right.
They do the auction. Chris Zimmerman do the auctioneering and all that. Used to anyway.
I've been to it before, but not on a city-sponsored thing. It was on a legislature-sponsored
Right.
Yeah.
table.
Okay, here's what we'll need to do then. Just before we pull the trigger, please send your preference into Matt, indicating, yes, you're supportive of it. If he can get to the 10, then we'll pull the trigger and make it happen. And it's not just the council. The 10 can come from employees, but we just want to make sure we fill 10 squares. Are we okay with that? Okay.
And then last item, sorry.
Can I get that in writing?
Yes. I just wanted to give you a quick update on the bridge down by Bridge Elementary School. So we were a little concerned that the coverts weren't coming in. They did come in, and they're being backfilled. So we're in line with the April-ish date of them sending
Perfect.
water down there.
Cool.
So the bridge
Perfect.
should, but there's still quite a bit of work. We'd have to redo the road, and we also wanted to do the sidewalks down through there. That's the
So that's out how many weeks still then, do you think?
about a month,
Oh,
month and a
okay.
half. Yeah.
I'm
Just
sure
a
the
little bit
principal
out.
would like you to make it go a little longer.
Well, I think if I understand,
So would
Ross,
everybody
we
in
were
that
told
neighborhood.
that the reclamation department says they're going to turn the water on. If it isn't done, the water's going to get turned on. So the key would be is we got to get that thing done in time. So that
When did
the
they
water
turn on
comes
the water, Ross? April?
15th.
Okay.
Okay. Well, keep us posted, obviously, and
Hope we have
critical that we
water.
make sure we get that completed. Okay, good deal. Okay, anything else, Matt? Okay, council, anything you'd like to share? And Ms. Parker, okay, anything you'd like to share? This is the time when the council can share anything they'd like to share between us, so please.
Okay, well.
Ladies first, I'll go after you, Nevaeh.
I wanted to say I kind of wanted to see a council meeting before I asked about. Am I breathing into that? Is that me?
I don't know if it's
Oh my
breathing or-
goodness. Sorry.
No, it's a bad mic.
It's a bad mic.
Okay, sorry. Anyways, so I wanted to see how everything was how this all ran before I talked to everyone about it. But I did say, I remember you mentioning the pickleball court being put in somewhere, and a lot of my friends were excited about that. And so I think, a lot of people use what's the park right there? The Roy, is it just the Roy Park?
The George Wallen, where,
Georgie Wallen?
1900?
Up
Is that 1900? I don't know my
Right.
streets. I can
The
remember
main
address.
road by I Omega, the main road there. Is that
Where
what
the
you're
train
talking
track
about?
is? Yes, yes,
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
George Wallen.
Okay.
At Georgie Wallen?
Yes, that one.
1900 is
So
the main
if
road.
that is in the works somehow, then
We haven't
um,
heard back on that yet, right?
I think we submitted the ramp.
Yeah,
grant,
we
but
submitted the
that's-
ramp
We
grant.
submitted it maybe
Submitted
about
it.
a month. We'll hear.
okay,
We submitted it to get it.
great. Then I think that is awesome. There were some questions I had. I don't know if is this time to ask
Yeah, go
questions?
to town. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you like.
Just about does the city give any funding to the high school, like teams, like sports teams or club teams or any of that? Is there funding for that, or is that not the city? Is it just like the school and the district?
We do, so during the fall sports, we do feed the teams.
Okay.
So it's kind of an in-kind thing to where city council members and mayor go
Okay.
and feed. And then also in the budget, we have $1,000 toward high school graduation,
Okay.
just to provide like a safe environment
Okay.
for that.
Is it
typically
all
what
the
it goes to.
teams that get the dinner, or is it just?
Football team.
The
Just the
fall
football
teams
team?
is what's, the last
Oh, just the
time,
fall
I
teams,
only
okay.
seen the football team there, but I've seen the tennis team and stuff in the past as well.
Okay. Okay. Is there a reason it's just in the fall, or is it just like that's just how it is?
Maybe tradition, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think there's a really good reason, but that's just what's been asked of us.
Maybe
too,
it's
so.
time to do a spring and fall.
Well, just the only thing, because why I ask that is I have some friends on like the volleyball team and other teams that are in the spring that they noticed that the football team was the only team getting the dinners. And so I don't know if that's something that can be changed or maybe just like done in the spring as well. I think that would be cool to just show support to all of the teams rather than just, because they all work as hard. So
I can talk to the high school and coordinate something if you guys would like.
But we could talk to Pusey. It's just the football team's always, they have the biggest team.
Right, that
It
makes
costs the
sense,
most
yeah.
to feed, and they use the most energy.
yeah, that's true. That's
Not
true.
really. Okay, Steve. I'm just saying, no other teams I don't think have ever,
I don't
no,
know if it's ever
asked.
been
Do the
asked of us,
academic
yes.
teams while we're at it.
yeah.
There you go.
In the
And I
clubs.
mean, I'm a little biased because I'm on debate, but I mean that would be cool
Yeah.
to do like
Debate.
something just.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have the means to do it, I think it'd be cool
Right.
to have.
I think
'Cause-
only one hot dog for the football players, and then the other hot dog can go in the spring for the others.
I like what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
You give them just one.
Yeah, because Mike would
See
have
how
to
it calls
coordinate
them.
it,
They kill me.
because they do feed, like, every team before their games. I know that.
right,
And
but it's
so-
provided by the parents, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Most of the restaurants around here donate the
Some,
meals
some
also.
people sponsor them too.
Yeah,
Individuals I
yes,
know
yeah,
sponsor some of the.
individual parents will pay for it, and a lot of the local restaurants and stuff donate too.
Okay,
But
that's cool.
yes,
I
but
did hear a story that we are no longer able to cook, though. I believe that to be true,
Darn COVID.
but you have to have a food handler's permit
Catering.
in order to do it, or
it was probably after that bad turkey.
correct.
You're gonna have to run all your guys down, Ross, and get them food handlers permits now.
That's an interesting point. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there was.
Okay.
We can get a couple of food handler permits. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's online.
Anything else, Miss Parker?
Not right now that I can think of. It's good to see all of this so I can just know what we talk about and like what the city is in charge of. But I mean, not right now. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Keep them coming.
And I hope that didn't sound like a criticism.
No,
No.
no,
It's all good.
We're
That's the only
politicians.
thing.
We have thick skins.
Speak for yourself.
So he cries when he goes home at night, but that's because
In the
his
fetal
wife.
position.
Yeah, that's because his wife tells him that he doesn't take the trash to the.
I sense some tension.
She just realized you
Son-
two were married.
I saw the look in her eye.
Oh, she didn't know.
I leaned
Sorry.
over to Randy and I said, I think she just figured it out that there's
Yeah.
a husband and
She
wife
just
on the
Oh,
council.
that's what you were talking about. Okay.
You could see the aha moment. Anyway, Mayor, great comments, Ms.
thank
Parker.
you.
I'd like to report back my stewardship with the sewer board. They just redid the officers for the sewer board. I am now the vice chair of the sewer board. Joy Petro, the mayor of Layton, is the chair, and Kent Bush is the treasurer. So that's a 2-year appointment on that.
Good.
They are plugging away on the 66-inch line that's going out the causeway to dump from Farmington Bay into Gilbert Bay. If anybody's out there driving, stop and take a look at that. That is one of the largest HDPE pipes. It's all plastic. It's fused together. They do 2 sections a day. They're trucked in time to do it. It's a pretty...
Can you tell us what that project is for then, more specifically? Because we've heard several different stories. You've got the inside scoop.
So the reason that this, I don't know, it's probably state DEQ and multiple different agencies, because of the low water levels in Farmington Bay, we dump out into Farmington Bay. And because we're dumping out in there, it's changing the makeup of Farmington Bay as the water rescinds down. And so it was told to the district that they needed us to put out into Gilbert Bay. So we're going 6 miles out the causeway and then putting an outfall there that will pump out into Gilbert Bay.
What are we pumping out there?
Sewer?
So it's recycled water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Treated. Oh, no,
So,
okay.
Thank you.
interestingly enough, if anybody ever wants a tour of that, that is a fascinating
It is.
facility.
It is a cool place.
But right now where our outfall is into Farmington Bay, the storm water dumps out right at the same place our water is cleaner and purer than the storm water. It's technically drinkable water, but we don't reclaim it into the drinking system. But yeah, you look at what comes out of the storm drain versus what comes out of the outfall of the sewer, and it's actually a lot cleaner and clearer. So they're moving that out there, but this is the largest HDPE project in Utah and most of the United States. It's a huge project.
Interesting.
You think of 66 inches, how big that is.
It's huge, and it's pretty cool.
We were talking about riding a go-kart down it when it's done, but probably in April, they are going to put a liner across the causeway up towards the gate, because what they'll do is they'll drop the liner, backfill it, and then they'll push the pipe through the liner, then they'll grout that. So they have agreed with the county to keep the causeway open, so they're going to go redirect it. So that's coming, just so people understand that. But yeah, it's a big project, and quite a bit there. Also on stewardships, with being on the board for the key leader board for Community That Cares, I was invited to go to a CADCA convention, which is, I'm going to slaughter the name. Anyway, it's an anti-drug abuse and use coalition group. I learned a lot about drug use in communities, a way to spot drug use in communities, different vendors. You know, you walk into a convenience store, you look at different stuff, you start understanding. They were talking about different variants of THC, the Delta 8, and another one. Funny enough, you got out on the internet while we were sitting in this class, and there's a couple of places in Roy where you can actually go buy the different variants. So thought it was interesting. So I learned a lot there. I also learned a lot because the invitation ultimately come from ALCAP, which is Ogden Weaver Community Action Partnership. We have one of their facilities here in Roy. I'd always oriented ALCAP as Head Start, which they have 150 employees in Weaver County. About 120-ish of those are Head Start employees, teachers, and things like that. But there are a lot of other programs because they kept talking about rental assistance, and they've taken on this different thing. And so I started asking them, and then I sat down with one of the members, and he really educated me. And as a council member, I thought, that's important things I need to know, because they offer services and support to our residents, or can offer them to our residents, that we may not know about. And so I thought at some point it may behoove us to have them come and do a presentation, just for community awareness, to know that, hey, there's a place right here in Roy where residents can go get help with education, finding jobs, rental assistance, that I had no idea about. So I've learned a lot. So I think at some point we ought to consider having one of them come in and do a presentation, just so we have a better understanding of what they offer and what they do. We did have a chance to meet with Mike Lee, hit him up about a couple of things. We talked to Romney's staff. He was out on COVID, but interestingly enough, I ended up on the airplane next to Mike Lee coming home, and I've been his ear about infrastructure and stuff like that. Not that that's what we were back there for, but generally when we went back for the National Leagues of Cities, we've talked to the congressman about different things, and so that's, you know, as we're looking down the barrel of $100 million infrastructure bill, what kind of help is there out there, and what are they doing? It's talked a lot about on the Hill, but nothing's moved, and so had the opportunity to talk to him about that on the way home. So,
Okay,
pretty good trip.
excellent. Yeah, and by the way, council, as you well know, any council member can put any item on the agenda. So, Joe, if you see an opportunity there, let's get it on the agenda, let's present that to the council. I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, we have a community board meeting tomorrow with Communities That Care. It's either, it's Thursday, and so I'll bring that up.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else, council?
I just have one thing.
Please.
It's the mayor's birthday.
Oh, darn.
So here we go.
I'm glad you brought it up, because
Happy
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear mayor. Happy birthday to you.
I bought you a cane, but I forgot to wrap it and bring it, but I'll
Thank
give it to
you.
you later.
Okay.
I had a quick comment. Or sorry,
That was
before
not
you
on my
finish.
agenda, but go ahead.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Sophie?
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment on, I was able to meet with Maddie at the Boys and Girls Club over this last week, and was able to get a couple of things, see her program, see what she's got going on. COVID hit them pretty hard. Their numbers reduced drastically, and so just ways to help her be able to boost her programs, I guess, to get people aware that what they offer. That was kind of cool. I'm excited to be a part of that to help her. She did come to me with a couple of things that she thought the city could help them with, and so I've taken that to Matt, and I think we're going to be able to help them with a few things. So that was kind of nice to meet with her. So there you
That's
go.
perfect. Okay, excellent. Okay, and Matt, if there's something that obviously involves the city, let's put it in the city council's lap, and if the city council says it's good to go, then we make those things happen, okay? You can make anything you want happen right here, and I like that. Thank you. Just the last couple of things, if you don't mind. By the way, anybody else have a comment? Okay. We do have, there are 31 bills going through the legislature right now deals with water. Matt and I was talking about that earlier. We'll know a little bit more as we end this session and what goes actually to the governor for signature. But there's lots of issues. We do have Weber Basin basically on hold. I'd like them to bring a presentation called Flip Your Strip, but that could evolve into something bigger because there's talk with legislative bills that may help bring more money, particularly to individuals who are willing to make some changes in their water consumption through water conservation programs. So I'm going to postpone that until March, let the bills come through, see what's going to get passed, but maybe even what the governor's willing to sign, and then hopefully Weber Basin will be in a much better position to give us some ideas of what we really can do, and then we can decide whether or not we want as a council to move forward with it. So are we okay with that? Probably either the middle of March, I'll have John come and give us a presentation once we get some details out of the legislator. Last comment, council, I think we got pretty well commitment from all of you. On the 22nd, Steve, 22nd of February at 5:30, we'd like to have a general plan work session. It'll be downstairs. Ms. Barker, you're surely welcome to join us. It'll be at 5:30. And we're just going to go ahead and work through the general plan. You please read it, mark your general plan document up, get some ideas, and then we'll try to see if we can, with the contractor who helped put the thing together, we'll get this thing worked through and make the adjustments and get a document ready for approval. So those are the things that we've got. 22nd of February will be that meeting, obviously about a week from today. Anything else before I go for a motion to adjourn? Okay, then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
That was who?
Randy.
Randy, thank you, Randy.
I'll second it.
Okay, so thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Let's take just a couple of minutes as we position ourselves for the RDA board meeting, which will carry on here in about 5 minutes.
So what events did you do in Spain?
So for the one that I
You were 7:50, and it ended at 7:50.
What's that? No, he was. He was saying about time people listen. Said I've been listening for a long time.
No, that was the No, I'm in agreement with you. I want it to go. I think it should be close.
Hey, Randy, you're going to go fast, right?
No, I won't keep you any longer than an hour. I promise.
Can you cut that in half?
No, at least an hour.
Oh, I know.
So the way that
I knew that. Randy had to hear.
I always want it to be close. We are. Good.
Yeah. Yes.
Hope you're going for steak or something tomorrow or last night or something. Where'd you go?
Texas Roadhouse.
Wilson, yeah.
We went up there a couple of times after we waited. Yeah, it's gonna be another hour.
You can't walk away. That's why.
Well, the problem is I don't have a problem.
I'll send you those pictures and those videos when I can get on my phone.
You're totally fine. Don't even worry about it.
That's true. When I travel, I always go.
It's her fault for being concussed.
Stop.
My favorite place is Irish pub. When we were at
Guys have another meeting
there's no
right now. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
I love corned beef or pastrami.
Good shepherd's pie.
All right, Mayor, tell us about your celebration.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. This was awesome.
Thank you.
The next one is in 2 weeks.
Anywhere within
2 weeks, or unless you want to come to the plan, the
Right, the
general plan.
22nd?
Yeah, a week from today.
General plan, what is that?
So
General plan.
It's a big
Just
deal.
everything?
It's a book about
it's the
this.
future of Roy.
Future Roy.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll try to make it 5:30. Is that a Tuesday again?
Yep. Tuesday, and it'll be downstairs.
Okay, yeah, I'll be in touch with Ann, and so I'll.
See you later.
Yeah.
And I believe Brittany will send you an
Okay.
Oh,
It can't be
perfect. Sweet.
more
Okay,
than.
that'd be great. Thank you
And
guys
if
so
you want to
much.
learn about lawyering, the
Well,
only
you
lawyer
you
that I've ever
deserve it.
liked is Andy. So.
And I do know. I should probably talk to you.
Talk to me.
I
Yes.
actually, you know what?
Yes.
Maybe I'll just get it done now. I was just telling them.
I wanted to come talk
I'm
to
just-
you anyway.
I'm just saying.
So come on.
Happy birthday, Mayor.
Thank you.
I can't believe you're here. And
That's what I
doing
said.
this. Like, you need to be out eating Texas Roadhouse or something.
That's where I should have been. I was there last night.
Tomorrow? Okay, last night.
Last
okay.
night. He was there last night.
Celebrated.
Cupcakes earlier, right?
That
Yeah,
was the
you
other
need
thing.
cupcake.
So that's the celebration last night. And it happened to be a joint because you have Valentine's Day.
Yep.
True.
And you,
And
gotta
you
go
went
early.
out to dinner on Valentine. Oh, I refuse to let Joe let me. I'm like, we are not going out to dinner.
You got to do it early.
You do. You do 4 o'clock. Yep.
Well, you know, I think you should celebrate all week, so, you know, let's start getting things lined up.
Oh yeah.
Choose your cupcake.
I know, and they were good.
I thought you went to the restroom.
I did.
They-
I had them sitting there.
Well, I'll tell
choose
you,
which one you want.
I had another cake and it's not nearly as exciting as that, so I'm taking mine home and just
yummy.
letting,
Andy
On a
and
diet.
Sophie ate ours because we were hungry.
That was my dinner. Thank
So
you.
that was my dinner.
Well, that's sweet of you.
What do you got?
well, this is definitely fancier than what I brought. Thank you so much. Well, let's try it.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a couple of those.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
How fun is that? Wow. I think we need a fork and a knife or something, huh?
Just leave it
If you
on there.
send me the updated you have, I'll update that and then we'll
Sophie,
send
what
it
kind
back.
does he, there he likes it, that's the one.
Correct.
He's not gonna be
But
here,
whatever,
just
he
give him
doesn't,
one.
he is not gonna care.
He
And
just
that
gonna like it.
comment about the trash, that came out all wrong.
Well, you're like, my brother is the one that
Okay,
takes
so
it.
when I asked my brother, I'm like, Trey, like, Joe's too busy. Will you please take this for me? Like, that's how it comes about. So, yes. That's so funny. I did. The other day, I was like, help me move this furniture. And he's like, okay. I'm like, Joe's not around. Oh, that's funny. Oh. And it is his stuff I'm throwing away.
Yes.
So I have to do it in secret. Oh, I know. Did you get a cookie dough one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were really. So the bottom, you think it's like a whole chocolate piece? It's not. It's like a gooey. It's delicious.
Well, and then there's another like
yeah.
piece of like.
Yep. It was so good.
Oh my gosh, now I'm blank. The last thing's for
Okay, let's go ahead and we'll get started.
There's Joe. Where'd I go?
Okay, so this is the
RDA.
RDA.
They're just finishing up with the comments. Okay.
Should we just go for top of the hour?
Yeah, that's what I
This-
need. That's gonna say 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
And Joe was here and he left.
Idiot water.
Oh, water.
You would get a call to fill this water bottle.
Oh.
Okay,
He's coming right there.
there he is. Okay.
H2O.
And Anne's still passing out.
And thank you. That was very sweet of you. Literally. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll jump into the Roy City RDA Board meeting for February 15th, 2022. The time is 8 p.m. in 30 seconds. I'd like to recognize and welcome Board Member Joe Paul, Board Member Jackson, Board Member Wilson, Board Member Sophie Paul, and Board Member Scadden. We do have one consent item, but I think before we go with the approval of the consent item, maybe you'd like to make some comments on that, Randy. This is dealing with adopting Resolution 22-1, which is the Roy City Economic Development Strategic Strategy Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We went in over this plan in great detail with you back in January. Just a couple of things to bring you up to date about. Council or Board Member Wilson had reviewed the plan, and we talked last evening about a couple of corrections that needed to be made. They're very simple, but they were oversights on my part. There were 5 goals, 4 in the section that deals with policies and procedures, and 1 in the business retention program, of which we had a goal, but we didn't have an implementation date or a completion and responsibility date. And I have corrected that and added that to the document, so that has now been addressed. And then the other thing that she suggested was that where we have listed the action items, numbers 1 through 5, 6, 7, with each goal and strategy, she suggested we make sure that the implementation and the action items have numbers to them, so they correlate as you go through the document. There's also a couple of typos that were picked up, but those things have been added. I'd be happy to tell you what those items were. If you go to page, my document might have changed with the updates, but they were an item basically that related to conducting an annual review of business ordinances in the city based on feedback from the residents and businesses. The other one was task the beautification committee to assess enhancing defined commercial zoning areas with cleanup programs, new streetlights, and other improvements. Task the Art Council to coordinate events with the city to leverage the Buy Local campaign, and as needed and available, establish fiber optic cable network throughout each of the defined commercial districts. We now have added those to the implementation and have added the responsible party and the completion date. There was also one under business retention, which was to meet with the Weber County Chamber of Commerce to identify programs or opportunities to assist with business retention. And so we've now carried those over into the implementation plan, have given them a date for completion and a responsible party.
Perfect. Would you just make a note for this, Randy? Page 19, and I think it's just 19. In light of the discussion we had dealing with Business Advisory Board, there will be some minor adjustments that will need to be made based on that.
Yeah, and in fact, what we'll probably have to do, we have the Business Advisory Board involved in some of the responsible parties.
Right.
I will go through and just delete those right now until such time as you decide how you want to move forward. So we'll correct the bill.
Yeah.
I made that note already to
Perfect.
do that.
Okay. Okay.
Other than that, I guess the only thing I need to say is this now is our economic development program moving forward. I think one of the things when I got involved is I felt like we needed a plan, we needed direction. And once you adopt this, this is now becomes our economic development plan. When we bring the budget to you, we'll ask you to fund some of these issues that need to be funded. We'll begin to implement them. We're already about halfway through the first quarter, so we may need to make a few adjustments to this, but really the dates and what you see and the actions and who's responsible, this is now the direction we'll go. The Economic Development Committee will be reviewing these, we'll be discussing these, but I want to make it just so we all have a clear understanding with the adoption of this, you're agreeing that this is the plan we're going to move forward for the city. And that's all I have to add to this, Mr. Chair.
Council, or board members, any comments, questions?
Aren't we technically halfway through the third quarter?
No, well, we started at January through December.
So we're calendar years forward.
But not the fiscal year, it's a calendar year that we started this with.
Just curious.
Thank you for all of your work, Randy. This is a very detailed document, which I know took a lot of time, so thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Randy.
Thank you, and I'd like to also thank the mayor and Matt, or the chair and Matt for their involvement with this too. They've been extremely helpful in putting this document together. A lot of emails from the mayors with a lot of suggestions and changes, and I appreciate that.
Okay. With that then, this is Resolution 22-1, adopting the Roy City Economic Development Strategy Plan. Do I have a motion then to approve Resolution 22-1?
So moved.
Thank you,
I'll second
Diane.
that.
And Joe? Okay, this is a roll call vote. So Brittany, if you go ahead.
Oh,
and
do we need to say that with the
With
adjustments?
the adjustments, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yes.
So moved with the mentioned adjustments, please.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Yeah. Roll call vote. Thank you.
Councilmember Scadden.
It's not council member, it's board member. It's okay, it's okay. Yay.
I'm on a roll tonight.
I know.
Board Member Scadden.
Yay.
Board Member Jackson.
Yes.
Board Member Joe Paul.
Yes.
Board Member Wilson.
Aye.
And Board Member Sophie.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We only have one discussion item, board members. There's a request that came in from Weber County, their new Economical Development Committee, Economic Director is asking all municipalities if they would go ahead and consider sending them a list of all properties, specifically commercial properties, with 5 acres or more. Also, their interest is, and I've kind of talked to them, if we happen to have some excess capacity within existing buildings. So if it's a clear lot, they'd like to know if there's any properties within Roy that they can put on a list and consider, and and also sending them if there's vacant facilities, okay, commercial space that might be available as they're going out and petitioning and getting businesses to come into Weber County. I will indicate to you there are 3 right now under consideration. One is Marco's Pizza is indicating they have an interest in relocating to other places within Weber County. Roy has obviously one of them now, but there are other places in Weber County. And there are two general contractor businesses looking to build a headquarters. They need 3 to 5 acres for one. That'll include an office building and outdoor storage and supplies and vehicles. And another one has an interest for 1 to 3 acres to build a headquarters building for them. So those are the interests at this moment. Now they're just looking to see if they can find available spaces, but they're going to look at all areas, and what they're asking us to do is submit our vacant space, okay? Randy, you've been researching this and working this a little bit?
Yes, and with the help of the mayor and Matt, we have identified, I've got 11 properties that I've been able to identify that meet that 5 acre or more. I've got to get with Steve and just look at what the zoning is of that, and that will probably be the ones that we would do. As far as vacant buildings, I haven't found any of those really for the most part. We have a few, but I don't think they're within that square footage. And also, I think what we will do as one of our goals is we will meet with the Weber County Economic Development Director, and we will sit down and talk about our strategies, and then maybe get a better, clear direction of how she plans to move forward with her leads and all that, and how we respond to those. I think the plan is we'd like to have her send those to us, and then with a format or something, we fill out and fire back to her so she knows where those locations might be for any use.
'Cause that's what I was thinking. So if every city sent in all their, properties, 5 acres or more, so they can decide, well, we'd rather give it to South Ogden than to Roy, or that's the only thing I'd worry about. So
No, I don't think that's what'll happen. I did this for many, many years I was the Weber County Economic Development Director for a period of time. And basically what she's trying to do is she's trying to put somewhat of a property inventory together to probably assist her a little bit when leads come in. But I believe the process would be that if a lead comes in, she's going to send that out to the community. She's going to let the community respond to that. She then will meet with whoever that is asked for that, give them to them, and then let them do their due diligence. Now, she may help direct them a little bit about if there's more information they need on a piece of property to try to do that. But I don't see this being a competitive, we're going to compete against each other. It'll be whoever wants that information that'll make the decision as to what's the best site for them at the end of the day. But what we want to make sure is when we send a proposal, it's a complete proposal. We've completed it, dotted the I's and crossed the T's, because what will be eliminated is if they get a proposal and they don't have the information.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to call you and ask you. They're going to take what you give. So if that's not complete, chances are you're not going to be considered. So that's going to be the key.
Okay, other questions, board members? Anything else you'd like to ask? Okay. Randy, thanks for the good rundown. Okay, we got the things we needed to do. Any other comments or questions you might have, members?
I did have something, if I may.
Please.
A couple months ago, maybe, we discussed and adopted a resolution and moved forward with the CRA. Oftentimes, when we put this first step of the process is actually sending out a public notice for it. And it can get some attention, and I wanted to talk about that today because it's a 30-day public notice. Right. If we wanted to proceed with that CRA, that would be the first step, as I said. But Randy was going to do so here pretty quick, but I wanted to let you guys know that, you might get calls for residents or people that are concerned or what's going on with it. The last time we had a potential CRA down there, it did get quite the attention, so.
So I was under the understanding we were going to kind of discuss the location and that we may not do the same thing, and that was going to be part of a discussion. I don't know if that's the time to do that now or in the future, but before we put it out, I'd like to discuss the actual area.
The actual area. What we've done is we have drafted the project area plan, and we have put together a preliminary budget, because that's one of the things we have to do. What we do need to do, and Councilmember Wilson, or Board Member Wilson, you're correct. We did indicate that we'd come back because you wanted to have a conversation about the project area itself.
Yes.
So we have an area, and we'll bring that back. We'll schedule that for a conversation at our next meeting so that we know exactly what the boundaries of the project area will be, so that we can do the proper noticing to the property owners within those boundaries. And Matt is right. The process is that we send a 30-day notice out to just the property owners within the project area. We also send a notice out to all of the taxing entities that levy a tax within that project area. All we're required to provide with that notice is a copy of the map. But then what we do is we put in the notice a date and time when property owners can call into the city, and then Matt and I will meet with those property owners to discuss any of their concerns, their issues, or things like that, because that kind of, when you get to a public hearing, you've solved some of those issues at that point in time, and I found that to be very successful. But the only notice that goes out is that 30-day notice and a map, and if they want a copy of the plan or the budget, they can request that, and then that's emailed to them or sent to them by mail, however way they want it. But that is what the process is. But you're right, we're ready to come back to you to have that conversation.
I'm sensing that maybe your comment may be more along the lines of the design of the map, how that's laid out.
Yes.
So I'm sensing, at least from Councilman's Board Member Wilson, before we actually make it formalized, that we come back and make sure that the board basically agrees within the foundation of the map.
Yeah, what I'll do is, since the plan is already done, I think we should also have you have a review of the plan and make sure you're okay with the plan, if there's anything else we do. But that would also include the map of the project area, because if we're gonna change that, we're gonna need to get a new legal description, and we gotta have the legal description before we send out the notices. That's also part of the requirement.
Okay.
So we'll schedule that for a very future meeting here.
Well, yeah, I think we have probably the next city council meeting, RDA board meeting. Probably if you can get it done by that time.
We'll try to do that by the first if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Great
you.
comment. Anything else you'd like to share? Okay. Good conversation. Then, do I have a motion then to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And that was?
Randy.
Randy? Thank you, Randy.
I'll second it.
And I heard Ann. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you. Good meetings.
Go home and have a birthday dinner still.
Oh, there we go. I'm gonna have my birthday cupcake.
That was my
Thank you.
So how many people do you have at your house now?
Just
Just the two of you now?
I know, I was looking for.
Been there 13 years, and in 13 years, only about 2 years now.